Chapter 459. She took a step back lightly. A ray of light fell from the sky and landed on her. Her face was like white jade and her body emitted a warm glow. The smell of smoke and fire immediately faded, and her white robe fluttered like a fairy. Meng Jian caught up with her, his palm glowing with a purple glow. Lu Yurong's limpid eyes became emotionless, calm and cold. She looked at him as if she was looking at an inanimate object. Her hand that looked like it was carved out of white jade gently moved forward. Rumble! A muffled sound rang out like a spring thunder. Everyone was stunned. Lu Yurong calmly stood on the spot. Her white robe fluttered as if she was standing in the wind. Meng Jian, however, slammed into the wall with a bang. There was blood at the corner of his mouth. He looked at Lu Yurong in disbelief. His eyes were wide open and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. He never thought that Lu Yurong would be able to block this attack of his. This was the Shadow Thunder Palm. Using the human body as heaven and earth, it contained the thunder of heaven and earth within the body. Thunder and yang were strong and powerful, able to destroy everything. If this palm of his landed, there was no chance of survival for the human body. Lu Yurong calmly glanced at him, and immediately appeared in front of him. Her white jade-like hand pressed forward again. Meng Jian suddenly flashed and disappeared from the wall again. Lu Yurong's palm hit thin air. She glanced at him and scoffed, "You're asking for it." TSS. A flash of lightning flew like a meteor and instantly drilled into the wall. Meng Jian's figure suddenly appeared. He clutched the left side of his chest. There was a flying dagger in his chest. He stared at Chu Li, who was floating down. Chu Li's white robe fluttered as he nodded at Lu Yurong. He looked at Xue Ling, who was embedded in the wall, unmoving and unconscious. There was a gash on Xue Ling's face. Her face was as white as paper and her brows were furrowed. Even though she was unconscious, she still felt pain. Seeing this, Chu Li's murderous intent surged. He said, "Meng Jian? You are Chu Li?" Meng Jian stared at him coldly and looked at Lu Yurong. Lu Yurong was looking at Chu Li. In Meng Jian's eyes, Lu Yurong was looking at Chu Li lovingly. His heart was filled with jealousy. He gritted his teeth and scoffed, "I am Meng Ji's brother, Meng Jian." Chu Li looked at him calmly. "I don't care who you are. Since you came to Tianshu courtyard to assassinate me, you must die." With a flick of his hand, another beam of light shot out. Chi. Meng Jian was unable to dodge at such a short distance. His body swayed and seemed to become a little more ethereal, turning into a shadow. The flying knife pierced through the shadow with a splash of blood. Meng Jian disappeared once again, merging with the shadows. Chu Li sighed to himself. This secret skill of his was indeed strange. It could turn one's body into an intangible form. It was miraculous and beyond the imagination of ordinary people. 2 more flying daggers appeared in his hands, and he threw them out. Chi. Swoosh. 2 flying daggers hit Meng Jian. Meng Jian gritted his teeth and left the courtyard without a word, disappearing into the night. Chu Li ignored him. He helped Xue Ling down and fed her a pill. Spiritual energy from all directions seeped into Xue Ling's body, healing her injuries. Soon, Xue Ling woke up. Xiao Shi opened the door. Her beautiful face was cold. Her limpid eyes scanned the courtyard. Why is it so lively? She had woken up a long time ago, and was moved to his courtyard by Chu Li. She had just returned. Chu Li said, "My lady, you should go back first. There's nothing here." Xiao Shi glared at him and looked at Xue Ling. "Is Xue Ling all right?" Chu Li replied, "Her injuries are not serious. She will recover in a few days." Xiao Shi frowned. She knew how powerful Chu Li's healing abilities were. It would take a few days to recover. It seemed that Xue Ling's injuries were serious. Xiao Shi looked at Lu Yurong. "You came too." Lu Yurong said, "I didn't expect this Meng Jian to have some real skills. Your injuries need to be treated soon too. That palm of his is not small." Chu Li said, "I'll make a move first." Lu Yurong nodded. She fluttered up and flew back to the Moon Palace like a fairy under the moonlight. Head Chief, should we go after them? Lu Xing asked. Chu Li shook his head. There's no need. Everyone, go back to your own business. Yes. Lu Xing and the other two tactfully said their goodbyes and returned to their original positions. Chu Li carried Xue Ling into the house and placed her on the low couch. Xiao Shi frowned. Is she really all right? The wound on her face will probably disfigure her. Chu Li took out a porcelain bottle. Apply this ointment on her. The scar will be gone in 2 days. Let her rest first. She will be fine in 2 days. I'm going out for a while. Are you going to kill Meng Jian? Xiao Shi asked. Chu Li nodded. This guy is a scourge. We have to get rid of him or else he will come to assassinate us at any time. It will be impossible to guard against him. If he and Xue Ling were not here this time, Meng Jian would have succeeded. Thinking of this, he felt a lingering fear. The Amethyst Mountain's secret technique was strange and shocking. It was a secret technique for assassination. It was not difficult to even assassinate a grandmaster. Lu Xing and the others were not just decorations. If it was not for this secret technique, how could they not have felt it? It was no wonder Meng Jian was so arrogant. He is a disciple of the Amethyst Mountain. If we really kill him, there will be endless trouble. Xiao Shi frowned, her beautiful face showing a hint of worry. Chu Li smiled. This secret technique is suitable for use at night. It won't work in the day. Don't worry, he can't kill me. You! First it was the Holy Church of Light, now it's the Amethyst Mountain. Xiao Shi shook her head. His ability to stir up trouble was unparalleled. He had provoked almost all 4 major sections. If he really killed Meng Jian, the Amethyst Mountain would not let it go. Chu Li smiled. If we don't get rid of this person, we will never have peace. There's no other way but to kill him. I'll go first. Up to you. Xiao Shi knew that persuading him was useless. Moreover, what he said made sense. If he really let Meng Jian go, he would not be grateful. Instead, he would try to assassinate him even more. He might be able to avoid it once, but he might not be able to avoid it twice or thrice. He would never let go of the hatred of his brother's murder. He would not rest until he was dead. Rather than dying, it was better for him to die. Lu Yurong floated like a fairy. She stepped lightly on the rooftop. The moonlight shone on her body. Her gentle glow became brighter and clearer. Her entire person seemed to be carved out of white jade. She suddenly stopped on a rooftop. She stepped on the green-tiled house and looked forward. Meng Jian was covered in blood. His face was pale but his expression was calm. He stood 10 meters away and looked at her quietly. Lu Yurong frowned. You want to kill me? Yes. Lady Lu, I like you very much. Meng Jian said slowly. Lu Yurong smiled. She only felt disgust towards Meng Jian. She did not like men at all. But you like Chu Li. That's why I can only destroy you. Meng Jian sighed. I like Chu Li? Lu Yurong laughed. Her face darkened and she said coldly, Destroy me? Based on your palm technique just now? Shadow Thunder Palm. Accumulating the power of thunder, tempering the body and transforming it into palm energy. My cultivation level is not high enough. I can only use 3 palm strikes a day. The remaining 2 palm strikes are enough to kill you. Unfortunately, this was originally prepared for Chu Li. Chapter 460. Very well, I'll kill both of you at the same time. Meng Jian nodded slowly. His aura gradually rose like a mountain rising higher and higher, his oppressive aura becoming stronger. Chu Li smiled. You talk big. You want to kill both of us? Don't you think about whether you can escape with your life? You dare to kill me? If you kill me, all the disciples of the Amethyst Mountain will come after you. Meng Jian said calmly. You don't have to worry about that, Chu Li said. Meng Jian said slowly. Chu Li, you dragged Lady Lu down. I didn't want to kill her at first, I wanted to kill Princess Xiao. What a pity, what a pity. The one I liked just had to like someone else. I can only fulfill your wish. As soon as he finished, he turned into a shadow again and merged with his surroundings. Like a drop of water falling into a lake, he disappeared. Chuli turned to look at Lu Yurong. Are we not going to kill this guy? We can only kill him. Lu Yurong sighed. Chuli smiled. I have to thank you this time. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes. We're even now. She originally wanted to save Xiao Shi's life and make Chuli owe her a favor. Now, the favor was written off and Chuli saved her life. Meng Jian's Shadow Thunder Palm was indeed powerful. She still could not get rid of it. If she took another 2 palm strikes, she would be in grave danger. Bam! Chuli suddenly punched the void and made a dull sound. Meng Jian's figure appeared and was sent flying. He spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. Meng Jian's body movement technique was useless in front of Chuli. In his eyes, Meng Jian, who used his secret skill, only emitted an invisible force that merged with the void. Chuli was most familiar with the wonders of the void. Although Meng Jian's skill was exquisite, it would be better if he was more proficient. With such a shallow level of proficiency, it was no different from showing off in front of an expert. After Meng Jian landed, he clutched his chest and coughed. He frowned at Chuli. Chuli said, Your secret skill is not perfect. You should change it. The martial arts of the Amethyst Mountain are exquisite. I'm sure this is not the only one? Alright Chuli, you do have some skills. Then have a taste of my Shadow Thunder Palm. Meng Jian inhaled slowly. A faint sound of thunder could be faintly heard in the sky. Meng Jian raised his right palm and with a flash, he appeared in front of Chuli like a bolt of lightning and pressed his palm down. Bam! Chuli countered with High Duke Lu's fist technique. A strange aura drilled into his body, and his body immediately became numb and stiff as if he had been struck by lightning. As his palm struck, Meng Jian laughed heartily. Seeing that Chuli was stiff and unable to move, Meng Jian laughed out loud. No matter how powerful you are, once you get hit by the Shadow Thunder Palm, you won't be able to escape unscathed. You know how powerful the Shadow Thunder Palm is, but you still want to take it head-on. I can only say that you are unbelievably stupid. Arrogant people are bound to be stupid. Haha, this feels great. Chuli let out a smile. The appearance of the heavenly demonic aura puppet swept away the strange aura and returned it to his chest. Meng Jian looked at Lu Yurong, looked at her bright eyes and sighed. Miss Lu, can you take off your veil and let me see your true face? Lu Yurong said lightly, I can't. Why bother? If I don't see it now, I can still see it after I kill you. Meng Jian shook his head and sighed. Do you really think that the Shadow Thunder Palm can kill him? Lu Yurong laughed. Killing him is as easy as flipping my hand. I don't know what kind of secret technique you have, Miss Lu, but no one can neutralize the Shadow Thunder Palm. This is the secret antique study of the Amethyst Mountain. Today I'll let you all die together. I'll consider that as fulfilling your wishes, right? Haha. Lu Yurong shook her head, showing a sympathetic expression. Sigh. It is indeed a good palm technique. Chuli opened his mouth to speak. This time, he clearly saw the route of Meng Jian's channeling, and it was indeed strange. If he had not seen it with his own eyes, he would not have been able to create such a miraculous technique. The wisdom of the predecessors was high. Every time he saw the martial arts of the 4 major sects, he would be in awe and sigh at his inferiority. However, he had been struck by divine thunder several times, and his body was no stranger to lightning. Meng Jian's Shadow Thunder Palm was not at a high enough level and could not do anything to him. You! Meng Jian's laughter stopped abruptly. Chuli said, There's another palm? Bring it on. Bang! Meng Jian turned into a flash of lightning. With a speed that surpassed the imagination of ordinary people, he hit Chuli in an instant. Chuli did not take a step back. With a slight shake of his shoulder, Meng Jian was instantly sent flying. Chu Li appeared behind Meng Jian and pressed his palm on his back. Pfft! Meng Jian flew out like a stone thrown by a catapult. Chu Li once again appeared in the air, waiting in the direction Meng Jian flew to, and was about to finish him off with one palm. Amit Ba Buddha! A Buddhist chant traveled far into the night sky. Fa Yuan and Fa Xiang rushed over from afar, their monk robes fluttering as if they were riding the wind. In one breath, they were still very far away. In the next breath, the two of them were already in front of Chu Li and Meng Jian. Fa Xiang caught Meng Jian and neutralized Chu Li's palm energy. However, Meng Jian spat out another arrow of blood. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and bowed. Almsgiver Chu, I pay my respects. Fa Yuan glanced at Meng Jian and shook his head as he laughed. Fa Yuan, since when did the Tempest Temple have such a harmonious relationship with the Amethyst Mountain? Almsgiver Meng and my junior brother are friends. My junior brother entrusted me to come and save you. Almsgiver Chu, I hope that you will show mercy. Fa Yuan smiled. Chu Li said, Fa Yuan, you can save him now but not forever. He will still come to die. Fa Yuan looked at Meng Jian calmly. Meng Jian clenched his teeth and said slowly, Thank you, Great Master Fa Yuan. He killed my younger brother. I must avenge him. Amit Ba Buddha! Almsgiver Meng, you are no match for Almsgiver Chu. Fa Yuan chanted and sighed. I will never let him go, scoffed Meng Jian. Chu Li laughed. Look, this guy is very arrogant, and he's proficient in the art of assassination. I'm not afraid of him, but Lady Xiao is precious. How can she take such a risk? He almost succeeded tonight. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and said, Almsgiver Chu, why don't we stop for tonight and settle our scores in the future? Chu Li smiled. Fa Yuan, he will run back to the Amethyst Mountain after tonight. Do I have to go up there to kill him? In the future, when his martial arts improves, he will come to assassinate Lady Xiao. If anything happens to Lady Xiao, will you be responsible? Fa Yuan sighed. Looks like I will have to experience Almsgiver Chu's skills. You should have said so earlier. Chu Li smiled. But with just the two of you, I'm afraid you won't be able to stop us from killing him. There's still Lady Lu. Lu Yurong smiled. Forget about me. Since Great Master Fa Yuan and Great Master Fa Xiang are here, I have to show them some respect. I'll make a move first. She fluttered away in the moonlight and disappeared into the night in the blink of an eye. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. Although the omniscient mirror could not see through Lu Yurong's thoughts, he could guess that this would be the result. He glanced at Meng Jian. Forget it, looks like I can't kill you. A disciple of the Amethyst Mountain has to be saved by a disciple of the Tempest Temple. If this news were to spread, the reputation of the Amethyst Mountain would be ruined because of you. Meng Jian's face was flushed and his eyes were burning. He wanted nothing more than to rush forward and kill Chu Li. Chu Li said, Fa Yuan, good move. Not only did you cripple His Royal Highness Azura power technique, you also taught him a secret Buddhist technique. I am impressed. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and said, Please forgive me, Almsgiver Chu. Chu Li waved his hand. I hope your wishes come true. Farewell. Chapter 461. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and watched as Chu Li gradually disappeared. His robes fluttered as he heaved a long sigh. Fa Xiang smiled. Junior brother Fa Yuan, why are you so afraid of him? Fa Yuan smiled but did not say anything. Fa Xiang said, Almsgiver Chu's name is out there, and he has failed to kill him several times. He is indeed a dragon among men, but junior brother Fa Yuan, your martial arts skills are superb, so you should not be afraid of him. Fa Yuan smiled and said, Brother Fa Xiang, I haven't personally experienced his prowess, so I can't describe it. Let's save Almsgiver Meng first. All right. Fa Xiang laughed and said, This time Meng Shizhu has provoked two great masters. To be able to escape with his life is indeed a fortunate thing. If we were one step later, I'm afraid he would not be in this world anymore. His good fortune is really profound. Fa Yuan shook his head and said nothing. It was still too early to say that Meng Jian had escaped with his life. They could save him once, but they could not save him the next time. Based on his understanding of Chu Li, he would not let it go just like that. If he wanted to kill Chu Li, he would kill the other party first. Meng Jian had a grudge against him for killing his brother and was proficient in the art of assassination. He was a great threat to Xiao Shi, and Chu Li would never let him go, even if he was a disciple of the Amethyst Mountain. When Chu Li was in the High Duke's public house, he was not afraid of the four major sects and was extremely daring. Otherwise, he would not have offended the Tempest Temple and was hunted down by himself. Chu Li would definitely kill Meng Jian. Junior brother Fa Yuan, what's wrong? Are you really scared by almsgiver Chu? Fa Xiang saw that he was troubled and chuckled. Fa Yuan said, Brother Fa Xiang, if we want to save almsgiver Meng, we need to follow him at all times. There's no need for that. Fa Xiang smiled and said, Let the people from Amethyst Mountain come over. If two more people from Amethyst Mountain come, I don't believe that almsgiver Chu can really kill almsgiver Meng. Or, we can send him back to Amethyst Mountain first. This is a good method. Fa Yuan nodded slowly. Since we've saved almsgiver Meng, we should send him back to Amethyst Mountain. But I'm afraid almsgiver Meng isn't willing and wants to continue his revenge. Meng Jian had been listening at the side and said, Thank you, great masters. Fa Yuan looked at him in surprise. Meng Jian said, I'm not stupid. If I can't get my revenge, I'll find someone to help me. Then, almsgiver Meng, are you going to greet your fellow disciples, or should we send you back to Amethyst Mountain? Fa Yuan asked. I will ask Senior for help. Meng Jian said fiercely. Fa Yuan pressed his palms together and bowed. Very well. However, he somewhat looked down on Meng Jian. If Meng Jian had immediately returned to the Amethyst Mountain and trained hard on his own so that he could personally avenge his brother in the future, even though he did not approve of it, Chu Li still admired Meng Jian. He did not expect Meng Jian to directly seek help from a fellow disciple. His temperament was not pure enough. Although such a person was talented, his achievements were limited. It would be difficult for him to achieve great things. Even if he stepped into the Grandmaster's boundary, it would be difficult for him to become a top-notch master. Without a brave and diligent heart, one would slack off after entering the realm beyond heaven. The Grandmaster's boundary was only the starting point for those who were truly pursuing the ultimate boundary of martial arts. The distance to the enlightened master's boundary was far beyond their reach. Compared to this, going from the foundation building to the Grandmaster's boundary was only a small step. Only by stepping into the Grandmaster's boundary would one truly begin their journey. It was obvious that Meng Jian was the kind of person who only sought comfort and did not seek to reach the pinnacle of martial arts. He was not the same kind of person as Chu Lian himself. Fa Xiang smiled and said, May I know which fellow disciple are you looking for? My senior brother Zhang is a high official in the imperial house. Killing Chu Li will be a piece of cake. Meng Jian said lightly. A high official in the imperial house. That's good. His position is transcendent. However, grudges should never end. If you can resolve it, then resolve it. Letting go is the only way to be free. If you kill too much, there will be retribution. Fa Xiang smiled. Yes, thank you for your advice, great master. Meng Jian pressed his palms together and smiled. However, he did not agree. He did not believe in the karma of Buddhism at all. Chu Li returned to the Tianshu courtyard. Xiao Shi was standing in the courtyard in a daze. In the house, Yang Su was taking care of Xue Ling. Seeing him return, Xiao Shi let out a sigh of relief. Did you kill him? Chu Li shook his head. Xiao Shi's eyes wandered. A disciple of the Amethyst Mountain is not that easy to kill. There must be a secret technique, right? Fa Yuan and Fa Xiang saved him. The Tempest Temple and the Amethyst Mountain are together. How interesting, said Chu Li. Xiao Shi muttered, logically speaking, it shouldn't be. She understood the grudges between the four major sects very well. People of different paths could not work together. The four major sects each followed their own path. Even if the Titanium Temple and the Tempest Temple were both Buddhists, they did not cultivate the same dharmic base. Chu Li said, it should be a personal friendship. It doesn't matter if I kill him or not. He wants to find High Official Zhang Xi from the Imperial House to kill him. High Official Zhang Xi from the Imperial House. Chu Li shook his head. How shameless of him! It's a wise move. He knows where he stands. No matter how long he cultivates back in the mountain, he won't be able to catch up to me. It's better to find someone to help him. Then you want to kill him before he finds the High Official? Yes. With the people from the Tempest Temple protecting him, will it work? That will depend on my abilities. I'll have to find someone to help me. Chu Li smiled. Lu Yurong? I can only find her. She can distract Fa Yuan's attention. I'll make my move. Chu Li nodded. Xiao Shi shook her head. Will she agree? She probably doesn't want to get involved in this trouble. Then you're underestimating her courage. Chu Li smiled. Since Lu Yurong was involved in this matter, she was not afraid of the Amethyst Mountain. She must have something to rely on. In any case, as long as the conditions were sufficient, she would agree to help. Moreover, she only needed to distract the two monks. Meng Jian's death was not necessarily related to her. If she was an ordinary person, the Amethyst Mountain would just kill her. However, her identity was not to be trifled with. The Amethyst Mountain would most likely feign ignorance. The Amethyst Mountain might not want to go against the two High Dukes' public houses or even the imperial residence. The Mercy Temple outside the fairies' capital shone with golden light. It was magnificent. Early in the morning, the entire Mercy Temple was bathed in fragrance. The morning bell rang 3 times, accompanied by the chanting of scriptures. The sound drifted far and the entire Mercy Temple was shrouded in solemnity and holiness. In a courtyard behind the Mercy Temple, Meng Jian was slowly moving his stiff body. The feeling of weakness still lingered in his heart. His body could not move vigorously. After using the Shadow Thunder Palm 3 times, his entire body's energy was depleted. He would need a month to completely recover. He was in the Mercy Temple. Even if he did not believe in Buddhism, listening to the ringing of the morning bell and the chanting of scriptures, he could not help but feel at peace. He had already sent a letter to Zhang Xi, the Imperial House High Official. He only needed to wait for news. When his senior received the news and rushed over, he would be completely safe. Meng Jian, are you feeling better? The little monk Fa Wu entered the courtyard and smiled. I'm doing fine. I didn't think you would save me, Fa Wu. Meng Jian smiled. Our martial arts are similar. Sparring is the best way to improve. Naturally, I can't let you die. If you were to die, where else would I find such an opponent? Fa Wu smiled. That's true. Meng Jian smiled. Fa Wu said, I've seen almsgiver choose martial arts. How is it? Meng Jian's smile faded and his face darkened. Fa Wu said, Is he really that powerful? Meng Jian nodded slowly. I want to cultivate well. One day I will catch up to him. Fa Wu scoffed. I want to defeat him completely. Meng Jian looked at him and smiled. He felt that Fa Wu would never be able to defeat the person with the surname Chu. This person with the surname Chu was too powerful. Chapter 462. Meng Jian quivered. The voice was so beautiful and he remembered it so well. He knew who it was the moment he heard it. It was Lu Yurong. His expression darkened and his handsome face became ferocious. The woman he liked actually helped Chu Li and betrayed him. Her death was not to be regretted. What was more hateful was that his injuries were caused by her. If she did not help him, he would not be in such a sorry state. Fa Wu turned to look at Meng Jian and asked softly, "Almsgiver Meng, who is this?" "Lu Yurong," Meng Jian said through gritted teeth. "Lu Yurong? Could it be the lady of the Ren public house?" Fa Wu frowned in thought. "That's her. Beautiful as a flower but vicious as a snake." Meng Jian laughed coldly. "Has Almsgiver Meng seen her face? I heard that she rarely shows her face. Not many people have seen what she looks like. Is she really that beautiful?" Fa Wu asked. "You're a monk and you still care if she's beautiful or not. What dharma are you cultivating?" Meng Jian stared at him coldly. "Amit Ba. Thank you for your guidance, Almsgiver Meng. I was too obsessed." Fa Wu quickly bowed with pressed palms. "Humph." Meng Jian stared at him in disdain. These monks were so annoying. They went against human nature. It was a man's nature to like beautiful women, but these monks just had to have a beautiful skeleton. They forced themselves to imagine it as bones and dirty flesh. How unappetizing. "Amit Ba. Almsgiver Lu has graced us with your presence. I apologize for not going out to greet you." Fa Yuan's voice rang in the air. "I heard that your spear finger strike is exquisite. I'm here to experience it." Lu Yurong's cold voice echoed in the air. "Almsgiver Lu is too kind. If Almsgiver Lu has nothing else, please do not disturb the morning classes. I will go over immediately." Fa Yuan's voice moved slowly, calm and composed. "Very well, then let's go somewhere else." Lu Yurong's voice rang. "Amit Ba." Fa Yuan's voice faded away. Fa Wu's face was filled with envy. He sighed. "This Almsgiver Lu's cultivation level is so high that brother Fa Yuan values her so much." "Humph, a pair of adulterers," Meng Jian said coldly. "Which adulterers?" A voice suddenly rang behind him. Fa Wu's eyes widened as he watched Chu Li appear out of thin air and land behind Meng Jian. All the hairs on Meng Jian's body stood up. His sapphire blue robe instantly puffed up and stuck to his body. Rumble. A muffled sound came from the sky. "Good, there's still one more." Chu Li smiled and slammed his palm down. He did not think that Meng Jian still had a shadow thunder palm that he had not used. He was quite a schemer. Bang! Their palms collided. Chu Li's movements stiffened for a moment before returning to normal. Before Fa Wu could rush over, Chu Li's palm landed on Meng Jian's chest. Swoosh! Blood spurted out from Meng Jian's body. Blood spurted out of his mouth, and the wound from the flying knife at the same time. It was like a leaky kettle, spraying water everywhere. When Meng Jian unleashed the Shadow Thunder Palm, all of his internal organs had been emptied out. Now that he was hit by the palm, it was a solid hit. His internal organs were immediately crushed into mush. Only his skin remained unscathed. He had really become a bag of flesh. Chu Li glanced at Fa Wu and smiled. "Sorry to disturb you." He disappeared in a flash, vanishing like a swan. Fa Wu originally wanted to make a move, but he had only made it halfway when everything was sealed. Chu Li had disappeared. "Almsgiver Meng." Fa Wu hurriedly helped Meng Jian up and channeled his inner energy to help him heal. Once his inner energy entered, he gave up dejectedly and looked at Meng Jian with pity. Meng Jian's face turned green as if there was a layer of black gas floating around. He glared at Fa Wu with his eyes wide open. "Let senior brother avenge me. Avenge me." Fa Wu sighed. "Almsgiver Meng, I will help you redeem your soul." You. Damn monk." Meng Jian's eyes widened. His body trembled and he breathed his last. "Amit Ba." Fa Wu put Meng Jian down and pressed his palms together. He lowered his head and chanted. Fa Xiang floated over and his expression changed. "Fa Wu, Almsgiver Meng he? Senior brother Fa Xiang, Almsgiver Meng is dead. Amit Ba, who did it? Almsgiver Chu." Well done Chu Li." Fa Xiang sighed. Under their protection, Chu Li arrived calmly and left without a trace after killing. He treated the Tempest Temple as if they were nothing. As expected of Chu Li, Fa Wu finished chanting and raised his head to look at him. Senior brother Fa Xiang, almsgiver Chu's martial arts is truly powerful. I am no match for him. Are you hurt? Fa Xiang asked. Fa Wu shook his head. He did not seem to have any ill intentions towards me. He even smiled at me. Before I could even reach out, he had already killed almsgiver Meng. He was really fast. If he wanted to kill me, I would have died with almsgiver Meng. Fa Xiang said, "It's good that he did not hurt you. Almsgiver Chu is not afraid of the Tempest Temple at all, is he?" "Yes, his martial arts is outstanding and he has the High Duke's public house and the imperial residence to rely on. He has no fear towards the Tempest Temple." Ba. Senior brother Fa Xiang, I wish to return to the temple and cultivate in isolation. Very well. Fa Xiang nodded slowly. He looked over Meng Jian's body and shook his head with a sigh. Even if Meng Jian took the spirit blessing pill, he would only be able to hang on to his last breath. It was impossible for him to come back to life. Almsgiver Meng, it's a pity. Fa Wu shook his head. Meng Jian's martial arts was similar to his, and he had a similar background. Seeing Meng Jian lose his life because he provoked a strong opponent, Fa Wu felt pity for him but at the same time, a desire to work hard. What happened to Meng Jian today could also be his tomorrow. Hence, he had to cultivate desperately to make his martial arts stronger. Fa Wu cultivated the dermic base, but he was not an eminent monk. He could not see through life and death. He wanted to live a better life and pursue more exquisite martial arts. At this moment, a novice monk ran in. "Masters Junior Fa Xiang, Masters Junior Fa Wu, there is a almsgiver Zhang outside requesting to see you. He said he came from the imperial house and is looking for almsgiver Meng." Fa Xiang said slowly, "Fa Wu, stand guard here. I will go welcome almsgiver Zhang." "Yes, Senior Fa Xiang," Fa Wu replied. A slender middle-aged man stood in front of the Mercy Temple. He had a jade-like face and was extraordinarily handsome. He wore a green robe and stood with his hands behind his back. He had a natural and unrestrained demeanor as he looked at the Mercy Temple thoughtfully. The main door of the Mercy Temple suddenly opened. Fa Xiang pressed his palms together and bowed with a solemn expression. "Almsgiver Zhang, I am Fa Xiang. Please follow me." "Greetings, Great Master Fa Xiang." Zhang Ci closed fist saluted. He saw Great Master Fa Xiang's solemn expression and felt that something was wrong. As he walked inside, he asked, "How is my junior brother's injury?" "Almsgiver Zhang is late. Almsgiver Meng has just passed away." Fa Xiang shook his head and sighed. "Junior brother Meng is dead? His injury is that serious?" Zhang Ci frowned. Fa Xiang shook his head. "Almsgiver Chu broke into our temple just now." Sigh. Ba. Chu Li. Zhang Ci's face turned cold. Fa Xiang nodded slowly. Chapter 463. Zhang Ci stood beside Meng Jian's corpse, motionless. His face was so dark that it could drip water. Fa Wu and Fa Xiang could feel his anger and murderous intent. "Almsgiver Zhang, please restrain your grief." Fa Xiang pressed his palms together and sighed. Almsgiver Meng wanted to avenge his brother, so he went to assassinate Princess Xiao of Prince An's imperial residence, but he was killed by the head chief, Almsgiver Chu. Zhang Ci looked coldly at Fa Xiang. "Great Master, are you saying that I should be particular about who is right and who is wrong? Is this the way the Tempest Temple does things?" Ba. Fa Xiang helplessly chanted the name of Buddha. The way the four major sects did things was to protect their own dignity. As long as it was their own disciples, it was wrong to injure them, and they would retaliate. If they killed their own disciples, they would naturally kill the culprit. Otherwise, anyone would dare to kill their own disciples. Almsgiver Zhang wants to go to the imperial residence of King'an? Almsgiver Chu's current status, humph. He is a secret guardian of the imperial house, the head chief of the imperial residence of King'an. So what? I will take his life with my own hands. An eye for an eye, great master, Zhang Xi interrupted him. Zhang Xi interrupted his words and said indifferently, "There's no need to say such things. If it was the Tempest Temple, would you let him live? Almsgiver Chu has also killed disciples of our temple. Although he was a disciple who betrayed the temple, we still let him go in the end. Almsgiver Chu is righteous and should not be killed." Fa Xiang shook his head. "Ha ha." Zhang Xi laughed. Fa Xiang's expression did not change as he smiled at him. Fa Wu bowed with pressed palms. He was not angry. In fact, he was curious as to why the temple's attitude towards Chu Li had changed and they no longer wanted to kill him. On the surface, it was said that Chu Li was righteous and should not be killed. However, he did not believe it. There must be some unknown reason. As a disciple of the Fa generation, he was not qualified to know. Almsgiver Zhang, take care. Do you want to send Almsgiver Meng back to the Amethyst Mountain? No need. Just settle down here. Thank you, Great Master, Zhang Xi said. Benefactor Meng and junior brother Fa Wu are close friends, there's no need to be so polite. Fa Xiang shook his head and sighed. It's a pity that we can only save him once, we can't save Benefactor Meng a second time. This is fate, the cycle of karma, there's nothing we can do. Zhang Xi snorted. The disciples of Amethyst Mountain did not believe in Buddhism at all. Karma, Bullsh *t. Zhang Xi arrived at the imperial residence of King'an. His body turned into a shadow and calmly passed through the layers of defense. He circled the entire imperial residence of King'an and finally arrived at Chu Li's courtyard. He quietly blended into the shadows under the wall. He saw Chu Li and was waiting for the moment when Chu Li let his guard down so that he could kill him in one strike. Chu Li was cultivating the heavenly demonic power in the courtyard. After devouring the inner energy of 3 shadow thunder palms, his heavenly demonic power was showing signs of a breakthrough. The heart of Azura in his chest had been continuously injecting aura into him, but it was directly devoured by the heavenly demonic energy. Unfortunately, the heavenly demonic energy did not seem to like the heart of Azura that much. It seemed that the heart of Azura was not pure enough. Chu Li knew that in order to break through the 3rd level, he would need a purer inner energy, like the inner energy of the Shadow Thunder Palm. At this moment, he noticed Zhang Xi's arrival. Zhang Xi's cultivation level was far from what Meng Jian could compare to. Even 2 Meng Jians could not match up to 1 Zhang Xi. Chu Li estimated that Zhang Xi's cultivation level was 1 level higher than his. No wonder he dared to come directly to the imperial residence of King'an. As a high official of the imperial house, his status was extraordinary and he was not afraid of his own identity. He squinted his eyes and the water ball formed by the heavenly demonic energy suddenly fell into his precordium. Instantly, his blood flowed like a river and an infinite amount of energy spread throughout his body. He took a step forward and struck a shadow with lightning speed. Bang! The shadow swayed like ripples on the surface of the water. Chu Li followed up with another punch. Bang 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 bang! Punch after punch, both of his fists were like lightning, forming a shadow of his fists that struck the swaying shadow. Zhang Xi felt as though he had fallen into a raging tsunami. Fists were surging towards him from all directions. Every punch carried the weight of 1,000 caddies and was unstoppable. He could not think and could only block based on his instincts. Every punch was as heavy as a mountain. Even if his inner energy was deeper and purer, in front of this pure power, he was so weak that he could not withstand a single blow. He kept retreating until he hit the wall. Bang! His body hit the wall heavily. The wall seemed to shake and was about to collapse at any time. Zhang Ci felt his internal organs churning and a bloody stench accumulated in his chest, ready to gush out at any time. He felt extremely aggrieved. His cultivation level was obviously higher than his opponent's, but he was forced back by brute force. When this seemingly shallow power reached a certain level, it became so powerful. What was worse was that he was one step too late in casting his secret skill. His opponent was one step ahead of him, so he could only passively take a beating and did not have the chance to cast his secret skill. Bang! He took another punch and was embedded into the wall. Cracks appeared on the wall. Zhang Ci spat out a mouthful of blood. After taking another punch, he finally activated his secret skill. Rumble! A muffled sound, as if it came from the sky, came from his body. His palms glowed blue and collided with Chu Li's fist. Bang! It was as if a heavy object had landed on the ground. Chu Li trembled and immediately returned to normal. His face showed a hint of joy and he continued to punch. Zhang Ci was shocked and angry. This Chu Li could actually block the Shadow Thunder Palm. He did not believe it and followed up with another 2 Shadow Thunder Palms. Chu Li's body only stiffened for a moment. His hair stood up and he continued to punch. If not for his hair standing up, Zhang Ci would have thought that the Shadow Thunder Palm did not hit Chu Li. It did not even freeze his movements. Once hit by the Shadow Thunder Palm, the body would stiffen and be unable to move, allowing him to do whatever he wanted. However, Chu Li only stiffened for a moment, giving Zhang Ci no time to strike again. After casting the Shadow Thunder Palm, he needed to take a breath. The opportunity to take a breath allowed Chu Li to return to normal. Zhang Ci could not do anything to him. Rumble! Amidst the muffled sound of thunder, the Shadow Thunder Palm kept hitting Chu Li. Chu Li's hair stood up even straighter, but his body was not affected. He was stiff for a moment before, but after that, he did not stop. It was as if he was not receiving the Shadow Thunder Palm, but a normal palm technique. No matter how high Zhang Ci's cultivation level was, he could not withstand the Shadow Thunder Palm. Soon, his face turned pale and a sense of weakness surged into his heart. He desperately cast the Shadow Thunder Palm in a fit of rage, but he suddenly calmed down. The Shadow Thunder Palm consumed a lot of energy. After using it for more than 10 times, his energy was depleted. He would probably need 10 days to recover. Now that the Shadow Thunder Palm could not take down Chu Li, he did not have many chances. Thinking of this, the inner energy in his body continued to circulate according to the heart technique of the Shadow Thunder Palm. However, it did not condense on his palm, but at his feet. Swoosh! His body seemed to have turned into a sharp arrow that pierced through the air. Like a flash of lightning, he instantly disappeared in front of Chu Li. Chu Li's eyebrows twitched. The Shadow Thunder Palm actually had such a magical effect. It was really strange. However, he was not in a hurry to kill Zhang Ci. Zhang Ci's Shadow Thunder Palm was abnormally pure. He could faintly see the 4th level of the heavenly demonic power. The Shadow Thunder Palm could be said to be a breakthrough opportunity. He could not let it go. It was a pity that Zhang Ci's cultivation level was not deep enough. He could not have endless inner energy like Chu Li. He could not use the Shadow Thunder Palm anymore. Otherwise, he could enter the 4th level of the heavenly demonic power today. It was really a pity. It would be best for Chu Li to wait until Zhang Ci recovered his inner energy. Chapter 464. Chu Li arrived at Tianshu Courtyard and entered the house. There was only Xiao Shi in the brightly lit house. Yang Su was taking care of Xue Ling in the house next door. Xiao Shi was lying on the bed reading a book. The blanket covered her curves. Her expression was lazy and her face was beautiful. "Did you kill that guy?" Xiao Shi put down the book and asked lazily. Chu Li had already guessed that the Imperial House high official would come to assassinate him. He told Xiao Shi beforehand. Xiao Shi was not worried. She was just curious if Chu Li would kill Zhang Xi. Chu Li shook his head. I didn't succeed. Escaped? Xiao Shi was surprised. Chu Li nodded. The secret skill of the Amethyst Mountain is very powerful. I can't catch up. He's in the Imperial House. I can't go there to kill him. The Emperor might not allow it. He had the all-seeing divine power. Once he used it, he could find Zhang Xi immediately. But Zhang Xi was a high official of the Imperial House. He had always lived in the Imperial House. Even if he found him, he could not barge into the Imperial House to kill him. Fortunately, Zhang Xi did not dare to make a sound. Even if he was a high official, he could not kill a secret guardian of the Imperial House. They both had the words Imperial House in them, but they were not the same. Xiao Shi pursed her lips and smiled. There's someone you can't kill? Do you want to cultivate? Chu Li asked. Xiao Shi was stunned. She shook her head. No. Chu Li said, although I can protect you, there are always accidents. Your own martial arts is the most reliable. The assassination skills of the Amethyst Mountain are hard to defend against. I'm already so old. Cultivating martial arts is a waste of energy. Xiao Shi shook her head. If that's the case, I'd rather not know martial arts. I inherited Lu Yurong's martial arts. Chu Li smiled. The Empyrean fairy power. Don't you want to cultivate it? The Empyrean fairy power. Xiao Shi muttered. I think I've heard of it somewhere. Lu Yurong's martial arts is powerful. Chu Li sighed. The Empyrean fairy power is indeed a unique study. But there's a disadvantage. She cannot get close to men. Xiao Shi was surprised. Chu Li said, Lu Yurong is surrounded by women. She doesn't get close to men because she cultivated the Empyrean fairy power. There's such a wonderful use. Xiao Shi smiled and shook her head. What would happen if I were to get close to a man? I'm afraid that men will lose their lives, Chu Li said. Extreme heat and extreme cold, men can't withstand this. In other words, if I cultivate this, you won't be able to stay by my side? Xiao Shi could not help but laugh. You want to slack off and go back to little sis, right? Chu Li glared at her snappily. Xiao Shi pursed her lips and smiled. I think you're up to no good. Chu Li said, Lady, don't worry, I'll stay here. Xiao Shi shook her head. I don't want to practice. Chu Li looked at her helplessly. Fine, if you don't want to practice, then don't. Cultivating the Empyrean fairy technique had its pros and cons. Cultivating it would indeed allow one to defend oneself, but it would also change one's temperament. One would become icy cold, not as gentle as they were now. Xiao Shi asked, Did Lu Yurong really help? Chu Li smiled. She won't wake up without benefits. She'll help lure Fa Yuan away, and I'll take the opportunity to kill Meng Jian. Oh right, that senior from the Amethyst Mountain hasn't come out yet? You'll have to ask third younger sister about this. She contacted this senior. Their assassination skills are very good, you have to be careful, Xiao Shi said. Yes, lady, you have to be careful. Xueling's martial arts is not enough. Chu Li frowned. Xueling was now at the innate mastery's boundary. She was considered an expert in the martial arts world. However, if she was placed beside the imperial residence and Xiao Shi, it would seem like her martial arts was not enough. She could only block a few attacks at a crucial moment but would hurt herself and put herself in danger. How long has she been cultivating? We can't rush it, Xiao Shi said. Chu Li nodded slowly. Xueling's accumulation was not enough. It was not realistic for her to break through to the Grandmaster's boundary. He could help Xueling break through to the innate mastery, but the Grandmaster's boundary could not help her break through directly. After perfecting the innate mastery and entering the surpassing state, he had laid a solid foundation for Xueling. Her strong spiritual energy had increased her comprehension. As long as she perfected the innate mastery, she would be able to break through smoothly. Xueling's accumulation was not enough, but Jiang Kuai's was. These few days, He had been thinking about how to help Jiang Kuai find the surpassing state so that Jiang Kuai could break through in isolated cultivation. Eldest Master's wedding is coming soon. In my opinion, we should leave tonight, Chu Li muttered. Let Xueling and Yang Su go back. We can also avoid the assassins from the Amethyst Mountain. All right, Xiao Shi nodded. Early in the morning, Chu Li woke up on his own island. He slept exceptionally well. This island was his real home. It belonged to him completely. The imperial residence of King An was just a guest. He really could not feel any sense of belonging. Xueling had already woken up. She was slowly moving her limbs in the courtyard, cultivating the dark Yin palm. As the dark Yin palm circulated, the extreme Yin and extreme cold inner energy circulated. Her injuries were constantly healing, and her control over her body was becoming more and more smooth. Chu Li got up and went to the courtyard, sizing her up. Master, I plan to go into isolated cultivation, said Xueling. The injuries this time had greatly shocked her. It was really embarrassing, and she could not help at all. If it was not for Meng Jian's anger that drove him to attack her, the lady's life would have been in danger. All right. Go into isolated cultivation here. When you perfected the innate mastery, I'll send you to the Snow Lunar Pavilion to break through to the Grand Master's boundary, said Chu Li. Yes, Xueling nodded vigorously. As Chu Li spoke, his expression suddenly changed. Xueling noticed the change in his expression and did not dare to disturb him. Chu Li suddenly disappeared and appeared on the Jade Guardian Island in the next moment. On the stargazing tower of the Jade Guardian Island, a woman in white stood quietly in front of the window, looking down at the vast lake. Her face was white and flawless. Her eyes were clear and cold. Her pupils were like black gems, shining brightly and captivating. Chu Li suddenly appeared. The woman in white seemed to sense him and said, "You're here." Chu Li took a deep breath and suppressed his turbulent thoughts. He said with difficulty, "Why did you come back?" "Big brother is getting married. I have to come back for a visit. We haven't seen each other for a long time." Shao Qi slowly turned around and looked at him calmly. Chu Li slowly said, "Long time no see." Shao Qi's clear eyes were as calm as the lake outside. There was not a single ripple. The High Duke's public house is more prosperous than before. It's all thanks to you. You flatter me, said Chu Li. Shao Qi turned around and looked at the vast lake again. Chu Li's mind was racing. He could not stop no matter what. He had imagined countless scenarios where the two of them would meet, but he never thought it would be at this moment like this. In the end, his turbulent thoughts could only be condensed into these two sentences. He came to Shao Qi's side. He looked at the vast lake and smelled the faint fragrance on her body. Suddenly, he felt his heart was at peace. All the restlessness in his heart had disappeared. The stargazing tower was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Only the gentle breeze could be heard. After a long time, Shao Qi's clear voice was heard. Big brother's wedding will go smoothly, right? It will. Chu Li nodded. What should be done has been done. The martial arts factions will not dare to cause trouble. The imperial court will not act rashly either. There shouldn't be any problems. That's good. Shao Qi said softly. Chapter 465. P.S. Stimulation. I need strong stimulation. I feel exhausted after writing 6 chapters. Time seemed to flow backward, and everything returned to the beginning. Shao Qi calmly replied, After Big Brother's wedding, I'll continue my isolated cultivation. He really has a chance of reaching the heavenly god realm? Chu Li turned his head to look at her beautiful face. Her skin was as white as suet jade, exuding a gentle luster. Her eyes were cold and tranquil, devoid of sorrow or joy. She was even more beautiful than before, giving him a sense of familiarity and strangeness at the same time. Xiao Qi gently nodded. I found a small path, let's give it a try. Chu Li smiled. Congratulations. Shao Qi smiled. It's all thanks to you. Without his intellectual sword severing threads of emotion, her revered sword scripture would not have advanced to this level, and she would not have reached her current level. The feelings they had for each other in the past were like spring water flowing over a rock. The traces they had left behind gradually disappeared. When she faced Chuli, she no longer felt the excitement she had before. Instead, she only felt a sense of familiarity and closeness, as if he was her family. Chuli smiled, but his heart was bitter and heavy. Looking at Shao-Chi's beautiful face, he could not wait to pull her into his arms and hug her tightly. However, the two of them were only a meter apart. He could touch her if he stretched out his hand, but he could not reach out his hand. Shao-Chi was now out of his reach. Shao-Chi glanced at him. "Is second eldest sister doing well?" "Second miss has returned." "Yes, I've met her. She said she's doing well. King and has been cultivating in isolation." "We'll have to face it eventually," Shao-Chi said faintly. "How long can second eldest sister hide? If King enforces her too hard, the second lady can only disappear." Chuli shook his head and said, "From the looks of it, Princeton doesn't have that kind of intention. He wants to kill me. His hatred towards the second lady isn't that deep. He still covets the second lady's beauty. If you can't stay in the prince's mansion, let second sister go to my place." "Yes." The two of them exchanged a few words and then fell silent again. Chuli felt lonely and melancholic. Shao-Chi stood silently in front of the window and looked at the vast lake. She had mixed feelings and was overwhelmed with emotions. After a while, Chuli asked, "Chief Su didn't come back?" "Yes, I came back by myself." Shao-Chi nodded. "Come and go as you please so that you don't attract too much attention." Chuli nodded. The two of them fell silent again. After a long time, Chuli closed fist saluted. "If there's nothing else, Lady Xiaoying, I'll take my leave." "Okay." Shao-Chi hesitated for a moment before nodding slowly. Chuli disappeared in a flash. He appeared in a small courtyard on his island. Xueling was still practicing the dark Yin palm. She looked at him calmly as he sat by the stone table without saying a word. His eyes were staring into the void without any focus. She could tell that Chuli was not in a good mood, so she did not ask any questions. Instead, she quietly practiced her dark Yin palm. After a while, Chuli sighed. Only then did Xueling speak. "Master, what happened?" "The third lady is back," Chuli said. "Third lady is back?" Xueling was surprised. "Wasn't she in isolated cultivation?" "It's Master Shao Taiying's grand wedding." "Of course, I have to personally come back to take a look," Chuli said faintly. "All right, cultivate your martial arts. Don't worry about these things." "Yes." Xue nodded softly. She finally understood why her young master looked so pale. She vaguely knew about the relationship between the two of them, but she was not optimistic about their future. Although her young master was extremely intelligent and had top-notch martial arts, he was worthy of any woman. However, the third lady was different. The third lady's temperament made it impossible for her to get close to others. She was indifferent and quiet. It was as if she did not belong to this world and was aloof from it. It was as if she was born to not belong to anyone. She did not belong to any man, even if the man was her young master. Chuli could see Shao-Chi through the omniscient mirror. She stood quietly in front of the window. Her bright eyes flickered as she stared at the lake, lost in thought. He could not feel what she was thinking. The regal sword scripture was exquisite. She had a power similar to Chuli, just like Lu Yurong. He could not see through her thoughts. He suddenly shook his head and smiled. He knew Shao-Chi well enough. This time, he suddenly felt that things were not as bad as he thought. The regal sword scripture did not erase her memory. It only smoothed out her palpitations. The past was still in her mind. It was not difficult to win her heart again. After all, there were feelings from before. It was not difficult to rekindle old feelings. However, he was not in a hurry to rekindle old feelings. If he teased her now, he would be hindering her cultivation. When she cultivated to become an enlightened master, and he became an enlightened master, it would not be too late to rekindle old feelings. As he thought about this, he was even more eager to become an enlightened master. The omniscient mirror immediately activated and suppressed this urgency and burning desire. More haste, less speed. The path to becoming an enlightened master required enough patience and luck. It could not be rushed. In the evening, Chuli arrived at the Island of Symphony. The Island of Symphony was bustling with activity. Maids came and went busily. The sunset covered the Island of Symphony with a layer of light, making it look even more magnificent. In the gazebo in the middle of the sea of flowers, Xiao Shi sat in front of a low table and played the guzheng. As soon as Chuli appeared, the music stopped. Xiao Shi turned to look at Chuli. "Have you seen little sister?" Chuli nodded. A smile appeared on Xiao Shi's beautiful face. "Little sister became prettier, didn't she?" "Yes," Chuli said slowly. Perhaps it was because of her stronger martial arts, or because of the regal sword scripture, Xiao Qi did become more beautiful. Xiao Shi said, "She also became gentler." "Yes," Chuli said. Xiao Qi did not seem cold like before because she was detached from the world. She looked on coldly from the sidelines and had no worries. That was why she could be calm and gentle. Nothing could move her heart. Xiao Shi pursed her lips and smiled. "Little sister became better, are you not happy?" "Hee, I'm happy," Chuli forced a smile. "Sigh." Xiao Shi shook her head and sighed. "She still treats you differently from others." "Yes," Chuli nodded slowly. Xiao Shi tilted her head and looked at him. She giggled. Chuli said impatiently, "My lady, you asked me to come here just to make fun of me, right? I wanted to help you." Xiao Shi held back her laughter. Her beautiful face became even more beautiful and rosy. "I'll give you some ideas." "Thank you, but there's no need," Chuli quickly said. Xiao Shi smiled. "I've chatted with little sister. She still admires you a lot." "My lady, you don't have to worry about it." Chuli waved his hand and said, "I'll handle it." How are you going to handle it?" Xiao Shi rolled her eyes at him and said, "Little sister is going back soon. She'll leave after one look. If you miss the chance, when will you see her again? No matter how good the relationship is, it will fade after a long time. If I want to see her, I can go anytime. What's the point of you going?" Xiao Shi said impatiently, "Little sister is going back to isolated cultivation. She won't see outsiders." Chuli shook his head. Xiao Shi scoffed, "You really don't need my help?" "I really don't," Chuli said. "If you have the intention, think about how to deal with Kingen." "Him?" Xiao Shi said in disdain. "He's a dead man. What's there to deal with?" "You underestimate Kingen," Chuli said. "He's planning to cause trouble." Xiao Shi's eyes widened. Chuli said, "He'll come out of isolated cultivation and attend the wedding." "What's his intention?" Xiao Shi frowned. "Is he trying to overtake the host?" "Yes, he's trying to make us unhappy." Chuli shook his head and sighed. "He's purposely making us uncomfortable." Chapter 466. But if Princeton really did that, it would be really infuriating. It would ruin the happy atmosphere of the wedding. Big Brother might only have this one wedding in his life. How could he be happy to see Princeton? He had to suppress his anger and smile. Just thinking about it made Xiao Shi feel depressed for Big Brother. He would probably be angry in the future. Chuli said, "If he really does that, as the princess, you will have to cooperate in public. I'm afraid you will have to sleep here tonight. What will you do?" Xiao Shi said, "Then what do you think I should do? I can only think of a way to stop him." Chuli said, "I should teach him a lesson." "You can kill him?" Xiao Shi scoffed. "If something really happens, it will be the public house's responsibility. He has his eyes on it, that's why he dared to do it. What a shameless bastard." Chuli smiled. "You can still smile?" Xiao Shi rolled her eyes. "Quickly think of a way." I will personally escort His Royal Highness. Chu Li said, just in case there are any troubles along the way. Escort him here? Xiao Shi frowned at him, guessing what he was planning. She muttered, ambush him along the way? Chu Li shook his head. What else can we do? Xiao Shi scoffed, we can't just let him come here and cause trouble so easily, right? At the very least, we can injure him badly and make him lie down and not cause trouble. Chu Li smiled. That depends on how Amethyst Mountain handles it. What does this have to do with Amethyst Mountain? Xiao Shi's thoughts turned and she muttered, Amethyst Mountain will definitely not let you go. You want to use Amethyst Mountain to kill Princeton? It won't be that easy. Amethyst Mountain are not idiots. They don't have an enlightened master. They won't dare to kill Princeton. I have to try. Chu Li said. All right then. Xiao Shi said. Just don't let him get here smoothly. Chu Li said. This time I will need Lu Yurong's help again. Xiao Shi's brows furrowed. She did not like Chu Li and Lu Yurong being together all the time. She felt uncomfortable looking at them. But she also knew that Lu Yurong and Chu Li were birds of a feather. The two of them had a tacit understanding and could be trusted. Although they were still opponents, they would not break their promise. Princeton found out from Su Ning that Chu Li and Xiao Shi had already left the imperial residence and returned to the House of High Dukes. Instantly, his mood was at ease. He felt his entire body lighten up, as if the rock that was pressing on his chest had disappeared. Early in the morning, King An stepped out of the cultivation courtyard and smiled at Su Ning, who was guarding the entrance. Revered sir, we should be on our way. Su Ning pressed his palms together and bowed. King An's handsome face revealed a hint of excitement. Let's not bring too many protectors. The more people, the more eyes there will be. Just the two of us and Zheng lied. We'll visit incognito without being noticed by the High Duke's public house, and then suddenly offer ourselves. What do you think? I'm just afraid that the High Duke's public house has many spies, Su Ning said slowly, and they'll discover us in advance. Let's change our attire. Princeton chuckled and said, if we wear coarse clothes, will we still be noticed by the public house? Yes. Su Ning nodded. Princeton said, it's the public house's grand wedding. There will definitely be a lot of people going to celebrate. No matter how many spies the High Duke's public house has, they can't possibly watch everyone. Let's sneak in, and when the banquet is about to start, we'll reveal our identities. It'll be very interesting. Thinking of this, he felt extremely happy. Chu Li's weakness was the High Duke's public house. Finding trouble with the High Duke's public house would anger Chu Li. Su Ning remained silent. Princeton scoffed. If Chu Li doesn't let me be happy, I won't let him be happy either. Xiao Taiying must be mad, but he can't do anything to me. Your Royal Highness, we have to be careful of the High Duke's public house's anger. If it's not beneficial to your Royal Highness, it's better to bring a few more protectors. Su Ning said. There's no need. Princeton waved his hand. It'll be too conspicuous if there are too many people. It's fine as it is. He was sure that the High Duke's public house would not dare to do anything to him. Yes. Su Ning did not try to persuade him anymore. The two of them talked as they walked towards his study room. When they arrived at the courtyard where the study room was located, Prince An's face darkened. He coldly stared at Chu Li, who was standing at the courtyard entrance with a smile. Chu Li closed fist, saluted and smiled. Greetings, Your Royal Highness. Greetings, revered sir. Why are you here? Prince An's eyebrows furrowed. Chu Li smiled. I know that Your Royal Highness is coming out of isolated cultivation. I'm here to congratulate you. Humph, didn't you return to the High Duke's public house? Prince An scoffed. He was furious. Who was the one who leaked the news? He glanced at Su Ning. Other than revered Sir Su Ning, no one else would know that he was coming out of isolated cultivation. Could it be that Chu Li and Su Ning had some sort of relationship? Su Ning pressed his palms together and bowed. How did head chief know that your Royal Highness is coming out of isolated cultivation? I guessed. Chu smiled. With your Royal Highness's temper, how could you miss the wedding of the High Duke's public house? I'll be waiting here. Prince An stared at him coldly. It did not feel good to be seen through by others, especially by someone as scheming as him. You really care about me? Prince An lowered his voice and walked in with his hands behind his back. Chu followed him in. As the head chief of the imperial residence, how could I not care about your Royal Highness? Your Royal Highness wants to visit incognito and secretly go to the High Duke's public house? No, I want to go openly, Prince An said faintly. Once the High Duke's public house knew about it, it would be a joke to go incognito. Chu said, I will arrange the protectors. We need to leave a few grandmasters in the imperial residence as well to prevent the princesses from being in danger. Very well, Prince An said faintly. Why don't you stay too? Chu could not help but laugh. Your Royal Highness, since I am our head chief, how can I not follow by your Royal Highness's side? I will escort your Royal Highness to the High Duke's public house to prevent any accidents along the way. Recently, Chongming Road has been very chaotic. Many of the protectors of the High Duke's public house have died. Oh? Prince An raised his eyebrows and looked at Su Ning. Su Ning said, The 5 major sects worked together to ambush the protectors of the High Duke's public house and killed 6 of them. They have guts. Prince An smiled. How did the High Duke's public house deal with it? Chu said faintly, They eliminated 3 sects to improve their security. That's impressive. As expected of the High Duke's public house. Prince An's smile widened. I guess no one dares to mess around anymore? The imperial residence also knows the bravery of the people in the martial arts world. The more we suppress them, the more they are not afraid of death. Chu shook his head. That's why your Royal Highness should not go to the High Duke's public house. A man of wealth should not sit under the eaves. Why should you put yourself in danger? I have always been a lively person. Prince An waved his hand and smiled. I must go and take a look. Since you insist on following me, then you will be in charge of the protectors. If anything happens to me, I will look for you to settle the score. Yes. Chu closed fist saluted and nodded. He quickly arranged the protectors. Ing Wuqiu and Lu Xing stayed in the imperial residence. Zheng Lide brought the rest of the protectors to follow Prince An. There were 6 grandmasters in total. It was more than enough to protect themselves. With so many grandmasters, no one would be stupid enough to provoke them. Chapter 467. As dusk approached, the group of people arrived. They missed their lodging and decided to rest in a forest. They started a bonfire and roasted some wild game over the bonfire. The aroma of meat filled the air. They then took their own braised meat and dry rations. It was a sumptuous meal. The night gradually darkened. Chu sat quietly in front of the bonfire. The light from the fire illuminated his face. King An sat opposite him. His handsome face flickered under the fire. The way he looked at Chu changed. Su Ning sat cross-legged under a pine tree. He did not move an inch. It was as if he was one with the pine tree. Zheng Lide felt uncomfortable. It was hard for him to breathe. The atmosphere between Chu and King An was unbearable. Both of them wanted to kill each other. Yet, they sat facing each other without saying a word. Zheng Lide knew about the knot in Prince An's heart. Back then, 10 grandmasters were killed and the backbone of Prince An's imperial residence was broken. It almost destroyed Prince An's 10 years of painstaking effort. How could he not hate Chu to the core? Chu, on the other hand, was serving his own master. There was nothing he could do about it. Unfortunately, he had gone too far, which was why King An could not understand it, so he got rid of him quickly. If he did not kill the 10 grandmasters, King An would have a different attitude. He would have regarded him as an important talent. He would have accepted him humbly. He would have tried his best to win him over. he would not have become his enemy. Unfortunately, the world was helpless. The past could not be repeated. There was no second chance. Moreover, he suspected that Chuli would do the same thing even if he had a second chance. He would not let King An's imperial residence threaten the public house. Such loyalty was admirable. Unfortunately, even if His Royal Highness admired him, he would not forgive him. Chuli looked up at King An. "How's your martial arts training, Your Royal Highness?" King An threw a piece of wood into the bonfire. "I just started. I can't kill you yet." Chuli smiled. "If Your Royal Highness wants to kill me, you don't have to do it yourself. Revered Sir Su Ning, Commander Zheng, and the others can do it together." King An shook his head. "I want to kill you myself." "Your Royal Highness thinks you can kill me?" Chuli smiled. "Your Royal Highness is in isolated cultivation. I haven't been idle either. I think my talent is better than yours, right?" "What do you mean?" King An frowned and said, "Do you think that I can never defeat you?" Chuli nodded. "Your Royal Highness, you've been lying to yourself and refusing to admit it. You should understand." "I don't believe it," King An said faintly. "I believe that I can kill you." Chuli sighed. "Since Your Royal Highness is so confident, then go into isolated cultivation. I'm just afraid that before I do anything, you'll be killed by someone else," King An said lightly. He glanced at the two shadows under the bonfire. Swoosh! Two shadows flashed and shrouded Chuli. The pieces of wood in Chuli's hands turned into two streaks of black light and hit the two shadows. The two pieces of wood missed their target and passed straight through the shadow. The two shadows continued to attack Chuli without any obstruction. Under the bright light of the fire, Zheng Lide could clearly see the two shadows pouncing towards Chuli. It was as if two large nets were about to envelop him, and it was incredibly fast. Princeton had no intention of helping. He could not wait for these two assassins to kill Chuli. Bam bam! Chuli's palm struck at a shadow. His body instantly froze and his hair stood on end. Two black shadows appeared. One was short and wretched while the other was skinny and weak. The two of them paused for a moment before striking out with their palms. The sound of thunder could be faintly heard in the night sky. Chuli shouted, "Protect His Royal Highness!" Zheng Lide and Su Ning quickly stood in front of Prince An. The short and wretched middle-aged man struck out with his palm. It was as fast as lightning, so fast that Chuli could not react in time. Chuli struck out with his fist. As the fist and palm collided, Chuli's clothes fluttered again and his body stiffened. This person's cultivation level was far below Zhang Xiai and Meng Jian. The other skinny middle-aged man took the opportunity to attack him while he was frozen. Chuli was like a block of wood. He was hit by the skinny middle-aged man without any reaction. The purple glowing right palm was imprinted on the left side of his chest. Bam! He was thrown out like a stone and flew into the air. The direction he flew towards was where Prince An was. Prince An pushed Zheng Lide and Su Ning away and struck out with his palm. His right palm flashed with a golden glow and firmly imprinted on Chuli. Bam! Chuli flew out again and spat out a mouthful of blood in the air. Hee hee! The two middle-aged men laughed strangely. Like two flashes of lightning, they shot towards Chuli again. Chuli's body was in the air, and he spat out another mouthful of blood, but his heart was filled with joy. These two men's shadow thunder palm was powerful. After devouring the heavenly demonic energy, he had improved even more. The fourth level of the heavenly demonic power was becoming clearer. Bam 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 bam! The two of them took turns attacking Chuli, treating him like a rubber ball. They kept hitting him, making him fly in the air and unable to land. The two of them moved like lightning. Their palms flowed with a purple glow and their bodies emitted a faint sound of thunder. Although they looked ridiculous, their momentum was shocking. Everyone present was awestruck and did not dare to provoke them. They could only watch as Chuli flew further and further away. Prince An chuckled. Su Ning glanced at him. Zhenglide glanced at him as well. Princeton was still immersed in his excitement and did not notice at all. He only felt extremely happy as he watched Chu Li get hit by one palm after another. He had no strength to fight back and was flying around like a rag doll. It was as if he was the one who was hitting him. The two of them took turns attacking with their palms as fast as lightning. As they attacked, they thought that the rumors were exaggerated. What young heroes, they were only SOSO. After 20 palms, the two of them had already sent Chu Li flying more than 100 meters into the depths of the forest and out of Prince An's sight. They felt that something was wrong. If it was any other person, 2 palms would have been enough to kill him. Chu Li took 20 palms, but he was still fine. Not only did his aura not weaken, but it was also getting stronger. The counterforce from his body was getting stronger. They could clearly feel that he was getting stronger. It was as if the two of them were not attacking him, but helping him. He was probably taking the opportunity to break through his boundary. The two of them looked at each other and felt that they could not continue like this. The wretched middle-aged man's body suddenly grew taller. There was a faint sound of thunder coming from his body again. His right palm emitted a red glow which matched the thin middle-aged man's purple glow. They both carried a terrifying aura of destruction as if they could destroy everything. Bang! Chu Li took a solid hit from the palm. Boom! Like a thunderclap, Chu Li shot out like an arrow leaving the bow. He was even faster than before. Chu Li spat out a mouthful of blood. His internal organs were injured from the shock. This palm that was glowing with red light was firm and young, but it was even more overbearing and violent. Through the omniscient mirror, he saw that the palm energy was condensed and did not dissipate. It seemed to have turned into an electric light. After entering his body, it exploded continuously, destroying every part of his body. It was really destroying everything. At the crucial moment, the heavenly demonic energy came out and swallowed the flashing electric inner energy. This was equivalent to 10 shadow thunder palms. Good boy! The two of them looked at each other and realized that their heaven's thunder palm still could not do anything to Chu Li. They were a little surprised. Was this guy a monster? They had never seen anyone who could take a solid hit from the heaven's thunder palm and be unharmed. This boy only spat out a mouthful of blood. His aura was still strong as if it could not be broken no matter what. I don't believe it. The wretched middle-aged man became full of heroic spirit. His whole body was like a deflated balloon that was filled with air again. He stretched out and shouted. Another palm print came down. Once again, Chu Li was hit squarely in the heart. Bang! Chu Li shot out again. Chapter 468. The heavenly demonic energy suddenly shrunk and turned from a water ball into a bead that flashed with electricity. It was about the size of a longan and had a pure blue color. It was bluer than the clear sky. The longan-sized blue bead seemed to contain lightning as it emitted electricity from time to time. The blue bead quickly circled around his body. His internal organs, bones, flesh, and blood once again underwent earth-shattering changes. The two middle-aged men felt that something was wrong. They looked at each other and nodded. Both of them pressed their right palms on Chu Li's chest at the same time. Chu Li was in the air when he was suddenly hit by the two palms. His tumbling body suddenly stopped moving as if he was fixed in place. Both of them flew out with a bang. Chu Li's body emitted an extremely strong force that shook their blood. They widened their eyes in disbelief. Chu Li, who had allowed them to hit him previously, had become so powerful. The recoil was so strong that they could not even block it. This kid is too strange. The tall middle-aged man shook his head. His body shrunk again and turned into a short man. His handsome face turned into a wretched and ugly face. He looked like two different people, but he withdrew his heaven's thunder palm. What should we do? The thin middle-aged man frowned. The wretched man shook his head. Elder Su, I think we should retreat. Nonsense. The thin middle-aged man's face darkened and he said coldly, Are we just going to let him go? We have to find a way to kill him. Look at him. Do you think we can kill him? The wretched man pointed at Chu Li, who was suspended in the air. Chu Li's clothes and hair fluttered in the wind. It was obvious that he was undergoing a shocking transformation. His martial arts had broken through to another realm and would increase by a notch. Once he finished his breakthrough, the situation would be reversed and the two of them would be the ones getting beaten up. We can't do anything to him even if we attack together. The thin middle-aged man shook his head. When we return to the mountain, no one will believe us. They will only think that we are slacking off. I want to try again. If you don't stop, you won't be able to leave later. The wretched man said impatiently, Elder Su, listen to me. Let's go. This is too. The thin middle-aged man shook his head. If you don't fight, I will. I don't believe that I can't defeat him. All right, I'll listen to you. Let's try again. The perverted middle-aged man raised his palm again helplessly. The two of them attacked Chu Li together. They did not bring their swords. The power of their palms was far greater than that of their swords, so there was no need for them to use swords. Bam, 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 bam. Their palms moved like lightning as they struck Chu Li's body continuously. Chu Li was like a sandbag that was being beaten by them like a storm, but he was secretly delighted. Their palm energy could no longer hurt him, but they became food for the heavenly demonic energy, happily devouring the palm energy. The dark blue bead circulated around his body, changing his body. It became more and more solid, more and more pure, and overflowing with blue. It was like a real bead, as if it would shatter with a light pinch. Bang! The two of them suddenly flew backwards. Chu Li's clothes stuck back to his body and his hair fell to the ground. Everything stopped and he slowly landed on the ground. He felt that his body was filled with boundless energy. As soon as the dark blue bead fell into his chest, his blood surged like a raging river. He could clearly hear the sound of rushing water, as well as the faint sound of wind and thunder. Every part of his body was filled with boundless power. He suddenly turned into a shadow and struck the wretched middle-aged man who couldn't react in time. Bang! The wretched middle-aged man flew out. He could block Chu Li's fist energy, but he couldn't block the violent power. It was as if he was hit by a galloping elephant. His internal organs tumbled, and he felt dizzy and nauseous. He looked at Chu Li's shadow. Chu Li punched the thin middle-aged man again, and then hit him with 2 more punches. The thin middle-aged man flew high into the sky and completely disappeared into the distant forest. The wretched middle-aged man didn't wait for Chu Li to hit him again. He rushed forward and caught his companion. He turned into a flash of light and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chu Li let out a long sigh of relief and showed a satisfied smile. His plan didn't go to waste. They really helped him to step into the 4th level of the heavenly demonic power. He closed his eyes and entered the void of his mind. The huge heavenly demon appeared, and a chant surged out again. It was the cultivation chant for the 4th level. The 4th level of the heavenly demonic power had given birth to a new magical effect. The face of the heavenly demon in his mind gradually changed, and his body changed as well. Soon, he turned into the wretched middle-aged man. Chu Li opened his eyes and looked at himself with the omniscient mirror. As expected, he had turned into the wretched middle-aged man. As expected of the heavenly demonic power of the 33 heavens, it was so magical. Although he could change his appearance before, he couldn't control it so exquisitely that he could completely turn into another person. His body activated the Phantom Ean's skill, and his body gradually became lighter, as if he had turned into a feather. He looked through the omniscient mirror and saw that he had turned into a shadow, blending into the night. He stopped the Phantom Ean technique and activated the Shadow Thunder Palm. The surging spiritual chi followed a special path and quickly turned into an extremely pure inner energy. His 5 viscera and 6 bowels were all tempered, and then a layer of purple light condensed on his palms. It was the Shadow Thunder Palm. After the Shadow Thunder Palm, he changed to another heart technique, the Heaven's Thunder Palm. The Heaven's Thunder Palm was more overbearing than the Shadow Thunder Palm, and it put a greater burden on the body. However, after his body was tempered by the heavenly demonic power, it became more powerful, and he could easily use the Heaven's Thunder Palm. He let out a long sigh and smiled. He sighed again. The elders of the Amethyst Mountain were really smart to be able to create such a martial art. King An sat in front of the bonfire with a smile on his face. He seemed to be imagining the wonderful days after Chu Li was killed. "Your Royal Highness, don't you need to send someone to take a look?" Su Ning asked. King An glanced at him. "What's there to look at? Life and death are determined by fate, riches and honor are determined by the heavens. It all depends on his own luck." Zheng Lai sighed. "Your Royal Highness, I think the head chief is in danger. Those two fellows are too powerful. They're from the Amethyst Mountain, right?" The news of Chu Li offending the Amethyst Mountain had spread throughout the imperial residence. Everyone was guessing what the Amethyst Mountain would do. Would they dare to assassinate the head chief and go against the imperial residence? They did not think that these fellows would be so daring. They really came to assassinate him, and it was two top-notch martial arts masters. They did not give the head chief a way out. The way the Royal Highness handled things was too disappointing. When the head chief was faced with an assassination attempt, his first thought was to protect the Royal Highness. He only cared about the Royal Highness, but the Royal Highness hit him when he was injured. Not only did he not save him, but he also personally hit him. No matter what, he was still the head chief of the imperial residence. Even if he wanted to deal with him, it was an internal matter. When facing outsiders, they had to unite against them. The imperial residence's actions were truly heartless. There was no sense of security around someone like him. He did not know if he would be the next one to die in his hands. Once he made a mistake, it would be hard for him to be forgiven. He only has himself to blame. He was too daring and did not put anyone in his eyes. This time, he finally tasted the bitter wine he brewed himself. King An said lightly. He threw a piece of wood into the bonfire. "It should be cooked now, right?" "Yes, it's cooked." Zheng Lai quickly took down the wild game from the rack. The wild chicken was roasted until it was golden brown. Its body was glistening with oil, and its aroma filled the air. However, he had no appetite at all. He was still thinking about Chu Li. Even though he was in the position of an opponent, he still admired Chu Li's integrity. Even though he was not on good terms with the Royal Highness, he still fulfilled his duty. His character was truly admirable. He glanced at the protectors around him. He saw that their faces were gloomy and the atmosphere was heavy. He knew that their thoughts were similar to his. Chapter 469. King An glanced at the protectors and smiled. He did not mind. He knew that his actions were inappropriate. He was too impatient. Under the influence of his inner demons, he could no longer maintain his usual calmness. But so what if it was inappropriate? They would not betray him and side with Chu Li. His palm had clearly expressed his intention to kill Chu Li. He wanted the protectors to understand that Chu Li was their enemy. They should not try to please him and stay away from him. If that happened, Chu Li would be isolated. No matter how powerful the head chief was, it would be useless. No matter how powerful he was the master of the imperial residence. He was just a chief. No matter how powerful he would not be able to change his master's mind. These protectors were all smart and powerful. They would know what to do. He turned to look at Su Ning under the pine tree and smiled. "Revered sir, is there any chance of Chu Li surviving?" Su Ning pressed his palms together and sighed. "The head chief's martial arts is outstanding and he is wise. He might be able to escape." King An smiled and shook his head. revered sir, you think too highly of him. No matter how scheming he is, it is not worth mentioning in front of absolute martial arts. If not, why would I spend so much effort on martial arts? Suning said, Your Royal Highness, in my opinion, the head chief can escape with his life. All right, since the revered sir is so insistent, I will not force you. King An smiled. In my opinion, the two people sent by the Amethyst Mountain are very powerful. No matter how strong Chu Li is, he will not be able to escape. Yes. Su Ning pressed his palms together and did not say anything else. King An knew his personality and did not force him to agree with him. He turned to look at Jing Lide. Commander Jing, what do you think? The head chief is indeed wise. We cannot underestimate him. Even if he is in a desperate situation, he might still be able to escape, Jing Lide said. You all really think highly of him. King An shook his head and laughed. All right, I would like to see how he can escape. If we speed up, can we reach Chongming Town by tomorrow? The earliest we can reach would be at night, Jing Lide said. King An nodded, then forget it. Let's wait for the sun to rise. First, let Xiao Taiying know and let him come out to welcome us. Interesting. Jing Lide closed fist saluted in response. He cursed in his heart that this was done on purpose to anger Xiao Taiying. Xiao Taiying was a staunch and unyielding man. It was dangerous to provoke him like this. It was obvious that the Royal Highness thought that Xiao Taiying would not dare to do anything to him. No matter how he thought about it, he, as a subordinate, needed to be more vigilant. When I return this time, I won't be going into seclusion. King An turned his head to look at Su Ning and smiled. I think what Chu Li said makes sense. My aptitude is not as good as his, I really can't compete with him in martial arts. Su Ning said, Your Royal Highness, the head chief is trying to undermine Your Royal Highness' confidence. He just doesn't want Your Royal Highness to go into seclusion. He's afraid that Your Royal Highness will go into seclusion. Oh? King An frowned. What do you mean, revered sir? Su Ning said slowly, Your Royal Highness's cultivation of the antique art is progressing very quickly. Although the head chief has a good aptitude, he has a congenital flaw. What flaws? Family background. Prince An muttered, My background, Su Ning said, the head chief was born in the public house, so the martial arts he practiced are not top-notch. How can it be compared to the exquisite martial arts practiced by Your Royal Highness? I've never heard of the public house having any powerful antique art. It can't be compared to the 4 major sections. King An nodded slowly. That's true. If that's the case, he's purposely provoking me and attacking me. He doesn't want me to cultivate? That's right. Su Ning said, If he's really not afraid of Your Royal Highness going into seclusion, why would he talk so much? That's true. King An said slowly, Although he might be doing this on purpose to make us misunderstand, the martial arts of the public house are indeed very ordinary. Otherwise, they wouldn't have declined to this extent. To be able to cultivate ordinary martial arts to this level, Chu Li's aptitude is indeed extraordinary. Yes, the head chief is a genius. Unfortunately, Su Ning shook his head. Those who could cultivate the divine powers of the Titanium Temple were all geniuses. Moreover, Chu Li's wisdom was far better than his. He was also fated to be with the Titanium Temple. It was not impossible for him to become a junior in the same faction. Even so, he would not help him. Everyone had their own reasons and could not be forced. He was not a disciple of the Titanium Temple yet, so there was no need for him to meddle in other people's business. After King An spoke, he ate a few mouthfuls of the game. He felt that the taste was average, so he tossed it aside and lay down in front of the bonfire. He laid on his side and began to meditate using the Golden Lohan's power posture. He entered the state of cultivation. His fighting spirit had been reignited. He wanted to completely overwhelm Chu Li in martial arts and kill him. Only then would his thoughts be truly clear. It would be beneficial for his own cultivation and would be beneficial for the fight for the throne in the future. After midnight, Zheng Lide and the others realized that Chu Li still had not returned. They sighed to themselves and faintly felt that the head chief was in danger. Some of the protectors felt indignant. The head chief had encountered such a master but could not receive any help. No matter how powerful the masters from the Amethyst Mountain were, they would still have some scruples if they were to attack together. They could not kill him. Unfortunately, the Royal Highness watched as the head chief fell into a desperate situation. Not only did he not save him, but he also took the opportunity to plot against him. The head chief was also unlucky to have met such a Royal Highness. They did not realize that a shadow was slowly approaching them. When the shadow was near the bonfire, it suddenly shot towards King and Qi. A soft whistling sound was heard. A wretched figure appeared in front of King An. Both of his palms were flashing red as his right palm pressed towards King An was in the state of meditation. His reaction was the sharpest. He immediately felt a sense of danger. Unfortunately, before he could react, Chu Li's right palm had already pressed against his back. Wah! King An flew out and knocked over the bonfire. The robe on his body was burning. The heaven's thunder palm was destroying his body unscrupulously. The aura of the golden Lohan's power rushed forward to stop it. Unfortunately, the heaven's thunder palm was overbearing. Although the aura of the golden Lohan's power was pure, it could only block a part of it. It did not allow the heaven's thunder palm to rush to his heart. The heaven's thunder palm intensified and destroyed every part of his body. His dantian was instantly destroyed. Humph! King An was in excruciating pain. He gritted his teeth and did not scream. He only grunted and rolled on the ground a few times to extinguish the fire. Then, he bounced up from the ground and shot towards the forest beside. He wanted to run into the forest to escape from the wretched middle-aged man's assassination. Unfortunately, under the heaven's thunder palm heart technique, not only was the palm energy overbearing, but the inner energy had also become violent and swift. This made the wretched middle-aged man's body movement technique extremely fast. He instantly caught up to King An. His right palm flashed red and pressed down again. This palm hit the back of his waist and instantly destroyed both of his kidneys. Then, the wretched middle-aged man's figure flashed and appeared in front of Su Ning. He raised his voice and shouted, "Chu Li, if you don't come out, I will kill everyone in the imperial residence of King An." The night sky was silent. No one answered. Su Ning pressed his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. "Almsgiver, why do you have to kill so much? The sea of bitterness has no bounds. Repent and you will be saved." His voice was gentle and pleasant. It made people involuntarily believe him and want to obey him. The wretched middle-aged man turned his head and scoffed. "Little monk, put away your bewitching technique. We, the Amethyst Mountain, will not fall for your trick. Watch my palm." His palm energy was extremely fast. Before Su Ning could react, his palm had already landed on Su Ning's chest. Bam! Su Ning's chest suddenly bulged and dispersed the palm energy. "Huh, interesting." The wretched middle-aged man scoffed and turned into a stream of light. He attacked Zheng Lide. Chapter 470. Bam! Zheng Lide flew out. Everyone was shocked. Their first thought was not to pounce on this perverted man, but to find King An and protect him. Unfortunately, King An had already entered the forest. They could not find him, so they could only pounce on the perverted man. The perverted man sneered, "Chu Li, come out." The night sky was quiet. There was no response. "All right, then I will kill everyone in the imperial residence of King An," the perverted man shouted. His voice was like a bell, shaking the birds in the forest. The protectors pounced on him. The perverted man laughed and welcomed them. Bam, 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 bam. A series of muffled sounds were heard, and the protectors flew out one by one. They were like defenseless children in front of the perverted man. Their movements were slow and clumsy. They could not even touch a hair on the perverted man, but they were still sent flying by him. The perverted man's body movement technique was as fast as lightning. His palms were like lightning, so fast that one could not even see his shadow. In the blink of an eye, none of the protectors were left standing. Their movements were so fast that it was shocking. "Truly, you are indeed ruthless." The perverted man laughed and turned into a shadow. Like a dark cloud, he quickly disappeared in front of everyone. The protectors widened their eyes. They endured the pain and activated their inner energy, trying to force out this strange palm energy. Unfortunately, the palm energy of the heaven's thunder palm was strange. It was extremely pure and overbearing. Their internal organs were constantly being destroyed. In just a short while, they were all heavily injured. If it were not for the spirit medicine they had, they would have died by now. Amitabha Buddha. Su Ning chanted the name of Buddha. He stood up and walked in front of everyone. He raised his voice and said, "Everyone, sit together. Place your palms on each other's back and form a circle." Everyone trusted him and did as he said. They struggled to get up, enduring the pain. Their faces were full of emotions. They sat down in a circle while panting. They placed their palms on the back of the person in front of them. One by one, they connected with each other and formed a circle. Su Ning said, "Everyone was hit by the heaven's thunder palm. One person cannot resolve it alone. Only by borrowing each other's strength can the palm energy collide and dissolve. Everyone, slowly inject your inner energy into each other's body so that your inner energy is connected." Everyone did as they were told. Slowly, they felt the strange palm energy slowly dissipate and finally disappear. The pleasure in their bodies also dissipated. It was as if they had ascended from hell to paradise. This was extremely mystical. They all raised their heads and looked at Su Ning in disbelief. Su Ning pressed his palms together and bowed. "This is the unique solution to Amethyst Mountain's heaven's thunder palm. Everyone will be able to use it in the future. Let's go look for His Royal Highness now." Everyone hurriedly pressed their palms together to return the greeting and stood up to look for Kingen. All of them were injured. Fortunately, the palm energy had been removed, so their injuries would not worsen. They could slowly recover. However, when they thought of the wretched middle-aged man's movement technique, it was still terrifying. It was too fast, they could not react in time. So many people were like decorations. This was the ultimate skill of the Amethyst Mountain. It was no wonder that the Amethyst Mountain could become one of the 4 major sections. It was truly terrifying. They soon found the dying King An in the forest. The corner of King An's mouth was full of blood. He laid on the ground, looking battered and exhausted, as if he was about to breathe his last at any moment. They quickly fed him a pill, a life-saving medicine. Then, they placed King An next to the bonfire and sat down, surrounding King An in the middle. They closed their eyes and adjusted their breaths, beginning to circulate and heal their wounds. In the middle of the night, King An slowly woke up. Su Ning was sitting next to him. King An groaned, "Revered sir?" Su Ning opened his eyes and said softly, "How do you feel, Your Royal Highness? Did I manage to survive?" King An asked. Su Ning nodded lightly and said, "He still has his reservations. He did not dare to kill you, Your Royal Highness." "Humph." King An gritted his teeth and said angrily, "Chu Li." Su Ning said, "The head chief might have escaped. That's why he chased after us. He wanted to use everyone's lives to force the head chief to show himself. Unfortunately, the head chief is not here. Even if he was, he would not show himself." King An sneered, "It's all his fault. Your Royal Highness, your injuries are too severe. You need to recuperate carefully," Su Ning said softly. "It's better for you to return to the public house first. You can't go to the High Duke's public house anymore." "That's fine." King An knew that if he went to the High Duke's public house now, he would only be humiliating himself. Xiao Taiying had been suppressing his anger for a long time. He would never let go of this opportunity. He would thoroughly humiliate him. If he went now, he would only be asking for trouble. King An struggled to sit up. He channeled and adjusted his breath. As soon as he channeled, his face suddenly changed. He stared at Su Ning. My martial arts? Su Ning sighed and said softly, Your Royal Highness, you need to start cultivating again. Who is this fellow? King An gritted his teeth and asked slowly, Who was the one who crippled my martial arts? Gung Huarong, Su Ning said, the first-generation disciple of the Amethyst Mountain. He is an expert in the Heaven's Thunder Palm. He kills people like flies. Gung Huarong. King An said word by word. It was as if he wanted to imprint this name into his mind. He would never forget it. Your Royal Highness, you still have your life. You just need to cultivate from the beginning. Su Ning said calmly. King An said coldly, Revered sir, it's easy for you to say. If I were to cultivate from the beginning, how long would it take for me to recover my previous cultivation level? I think with your ability, Your Royal Highness, 3 to 5 years would be enough? Su Ning said. 3 years. 5 years. King An sneered. Then, he started coughing violently. Su Ning patted his back and sent some inner force into his body. He said gently, Your Royal Highness, there's no need to be discouraged. It's only 5 years. It's just a blink of an eye. Cultivating from the beginning will make your foundation stronger. It'll be more beneficial for your enlightened mastery's boundary. 5 years, 5 years. King An said coldly, Are you going to let Chu Li live for another 5 years? Su Ning said calmly, Your Royal Highness, that's his fate. Let him live for now. It won't be too late to take care of him when Your Royal Highness has mastered your martial arts. No. King An shook his head. I can't stand it for another 5 years. Su Ning looked at him calmly. King An gritted his teeth and said, Does your temple have a way to recover martial arts? Su Ning shook his head. King An said, None of the 4 major sects? Su Ning sighed. Your Royal Highness, it's easy to save a life, but it's hard to recover martial arts. I'm afraid that only the Emperor and the enlightened master from the Tempest Temple can do it. Your Royal Highness, do you want to ask the Emperor for help? I can't, King An said slowly. He knew that if he asked for help from his father, then everything would be over. Even if he lived, he would be a walking corpse. His father never wanted him to inherit the throne. Otherwise, he would not have agreed to the marriage with the High Duke's public house. However, he also knew that his father would not interfere too much. As long as he did not kill his brothers, no matter what he did, his father would only watch from the side. However, if he asked for help from his father, it would mean that he would withdraw from the fight for the throne. He worked hard for so many years, all for the sake of the throne. If he could not obtain the throne, there would be no point in living, let alone recovering martial arts. If that's the case, I can only cultivate on my own? King An said in a low voice. Su Ning nodded slowly. King An said, All right. Go and find Chu Li. Your Royal Highness, I think the head chief has already hidden somewhere else, Su Ning said. King An scoffed, Look for him. I don't believe that he could really escape. Maybe he's already dead. If he's not dead, then kill him. He had personally experienced Gung Huarong's martial arts. No matter how powerful Chu Li was, he would not be able to escape from Gung Huarong's palm technique. Yes, Su Ning bowed with pressed palms. Chapter 471. With the forest as the center, they circled around the perimeter and spread outward. After spreading out for more than a mile, someone finally noticed Chu Li. Chu Li was sitting cross-legged under a pine tree, motionless. White steam was rising from the top of his head. The protector who noticed him did not make a sound. He walked over with his head lowered and whispered, "Head chief, let's go." Chu Li slowly opened his eyes. The protector was Song Qingping, a grandmaster. He was not too eye-catching among the masters of the public house. He was handsome but had a dull personality. He was quiet and did not like to talk to people. That was why people often ignored him after they got to know each other. At this moment Song Qingping stared at Chu Li. "If His Royal Highness finds you, he will definitely take the opportunity to kill you." Chu Li smiled. "I'm fine. If I can't beat him, I can still escape." "Then don't show that you're injured." Song Qingping hesitated and shook his head. "Or else His Royal Highness will not let go of this opportunity." Chu Li laughed. "His Royal Highness has seen me injured before." "Sigh, that's true. I was so anxious that I became muddled." Song Qingping slapped his forehead. Chu Li said, "It's okay. How is His Royal Highness now?" "His Royal Highness' martial arts has been crippled. Everyone is injured," Song Qingping said helplessly. "The masters of Amethyst Mountain are really powerful. Everyone is no match for them. If they wanted to kill His Royal Highness would not have survived." Chu Li sighed. "Who would dare to kill His Royal Highness?" "That's true." Song Qingping smiled. "Head chief, you have to be careful. His Royal Highness is not in a good mood. Once he sees you, he will definitely explode and blame everything on you." Chu Li nodded. "Indeed, I have implicated everyone." "Head chief, is your injury all right?" Song Qingping asked. Chu Li smiled. "It's not a big deal. I think it's better for you to return to the public house first. Wait for His Royal Highness to calm down before you appear. Otherwise, His Royal Highness will take it out on you." Chu Li sighed. "His Royal Highness is really pitiful. Why did he get his martial arts crippled?" "I know." Song Qingping smiled bitterly. "His Royal Highness is really pitiful. No man can take it, let alone His Royal Highness. We can't spare these people from Amethyst Mountain." Chu Li scoffed. "Chief, then," Song Qingping said. His greatest wish was to stop provoking the Amethyst Mountain. They were as fast as ghosts, truly terrifying. Chu Li said, "I'll have to disappoint Brother Song's good intentions. I'll have to meet the Royal Highness anyway." "But," Song Qingping hurriedly said. Chu Li smiled. "Don't worry, if the Royal Highness really wants to kill me, I will escape." Sighed, "All right." Song Qingping looked at Chu Li helplessly. He felt that the chief steward still wanted to see His Highness in this situation. It was a bit pedantic. His Highness' palm strike was too chilling, but the chief steward acted like nothing had happened and didn't mind at all. He was too loyal. Chu Li said, "Let's go, I'll go back with you." "Head chief, are we really going back?" Song Qingping asked. Chu Li nodded. "All right." Song Qingping said no more, and the two of them walked back together. King An was sitting in front of the bonfire. His face was gloomy. When he thought about how he needed 5 years to recover his cultivation level, his heart was filled with anger. He wanted nothing more than to cut Gung Huarong into 1,000 pieces. But he also knew that he couldn't do anything to Gung Huarong. Gung Huarong was a disciple of the previous generation of the Amethyst Mountain, hiding there. No matter how powerful the masters of the imperial court were, they wouldn't dare to go to the Amethyst Mountain. This was a tacit agreement between the imperial court and the 4 major sections. Whoever broke it first, the consequences would be unpredictable. Even if the emperor knew that his martial arts were crippled by the people of the Amethyst Mountain, he wouldn't stand up for him. He would only blame himself for not being capable. In the eyes of the emperor, as long as he didn't die, he wouldn't stand up for his son. "Your Royal Highness, the head chief is back," Suning said. King An's eyes widened, and he looked coldly at Chu Li, who was walking slowly towards him. Chu Li's face was pale, and he closed-fist saluted. "Your Royal Highness, I'm back." "Why did you come back?" King An said coldly. "You didn't take the opportunity to escape, but came back to walk right into the trap? Chu Li smiled. Protecting your Royal Highness is my duty. How could I run away? You're really dutiful. King An gritted his teeth and glared at him. If it wasn't for you, the people of the Amethyst Mountain wouldn't have come. That Gung Huarong injured me in order to force you to show yourself. You were hiding at the side, watching me get injured, and purposely didn't come out, am I right? Chu Li said, I was afraid that I would implicate everyone, so I ran far away. What do you mean by that, Your Royal Highness? They ran back to deal with Your Royal Highness? King An gritted his teeth and sneered. Ran far away? If they really ran far away, why would they come looking for us? Chu Li shook his head. They thought that they had the advantage of numbers, and that I would run back to seek protection. You didn't come back. Your Royal Highness, their light body technique is too powerful. Even if I came back, it would be useless. Chu Li shook his head. I wonder if Your Royal Highness' injuries are serious? Not serious, King An said while gritting his teeth. Chu Li let out a long sigh of relief. That's good. Su Ning said, Your Royal Highness' martial arts has been crippled, and the injuries on your body are extremely serious. His martial arts were crippled? Chu Li was shocked. That can't be right. Why would the people from the Amethyst Mountain cripple Your Royal Highness' martial arts? Su Ning sighed. They're probably afraid that Your Royal Highness will take revenge. The words of a Royal Highness with profound martial arts and a Royal Highness without martial arts carried a completely different weight. In today's world, martial arts were respected, and martial arts was the foundation. Even the princes were no exception. The strength of martial arts was an important criterion for inheriting the throne. If one's martial arts was too weak, he would not be able to become an enlightened master even if he ascended the throne. Chu Li frowned. What a vicious thought. When will Your Royal Highness' martial arts recover? 3 years. Su Ning said, Head Chief, the most important thing now is Your Royal Highness' health. Chu Li looked at King and King An's eyes seemed to be spitting fire. He glared at him. Guards. Zheng lied, whose face was sallow and breathing weak, quickly responded, Your Royal Highness. The protectors felt that something was wrong. The Royal Highness was probably going to order the head chief to be killed. King An stared at Chu Li and said slowly, Head Chief, you've worked so hard. Get the head chief something to eat. Yes. Zheng Lide was taken aback and hurriedly agreed. Chu Li closed fist saluted. Thank you, Your Royal Highness. Have a good meal. King An said coldly. Our imperial residence still depends on you. Yes, it's my duty. Chu Li said slowly. Su Ning let out a smile. Only in times of crisis could a hero be seen. No matter how impulsive or narrow-minded he was usually, King An could still tolerate what others could not during critical times. He suppressed all his impulses and adopted the method that was most beneficial to the throne. Chu Li sat opposite King An. He ate the game that Zheng Lide served. As he ate, he asked, What injuries did Your Royal Highness suffer? King An's face darkened again. Su Ning shook his head. His internal organs were injured. I'm afraid he won't be able to recover in a short period of time. King An's most fatal injuries were his kidneys. They were completely destroyed. Not only were his meridians injured, but if it were not for his strong internal organs and the support of the spirit medicine, he would have died. Gung Huarong's palm was extremely ruthless. His kidneys were destroyed and King An's heirs were cut off. King An did not have a son. It was almost impossible for him to inherit the throne. If he did not have any heirs, there was a possibility for him to inherit the throne. Once he succeeded the throne, how could he forget the humiliation today? Gung Huarong's palm had destroyed this possibility. Chapter 472. P.S. The next chapter might be late, please forgive me, it might be posted at the same time as the 4:00 chapter. I'll try my best to write, but I'm writing slower and slower. Such a serious injury? Chu Li frowned. How about this? I have a unique way of healing. I'll take a look at your Royal Highness. King An waved his hand decisively. No need, let's go back and get the Imperial physician. All right. Looks like we have to go back as soon as possible. How about this? I'll bring you back first, your Royal Highness, and find the Imperial physician as soon as possible, so as not to delay your injury. Su Ning can bring me, King An said coldly. Head chief, your injury is not light either, you should heal yourself first. Chu Li looked at him helplessly. King An stared at him coldly. If he killed Chu Li now, then King An's imperial residence would be finished. His brothers would definitely not let go of this opportunity. He was heavily injured, it would be difficult to turn the tide, and he would definitely be forced to leave the fight for the throne. For the throne, he could only bear with it, and use Chu Li's ability to support the imperial residence. Before he died, he would squeeze him dry and use his ability. Thinking about it this way, it was a happy thing. Su Ning said, Head chief, you're injured, it's not suitable for you to hurry on the journey. I'll bring your Royal Highness back tonight, everyone can slowly walk back. Chu Li hurriedly said, We're not going to the High Duke's public house? There's also a divine healer there. He's not inferior to the imperial physician, he might even be better. No need, King An said coldly. He wanted to seal Chu Li's mouth, and not let him speak. Of course, Chu Li went against him. He kept talking and asking about his well-being. He played the role of a loyal head chief flawlessly. The protectors secretly praised him, and felt that he was pedantic. Why did he have to be like this? Chu Li understood King An's injury. From now on, King An would not have any lustful thoughts. He would not get close to the second lady. If it was any other palm energy, King An might be able to recover with the medical skills of the imperial physician. The Golden Lohan's power was magical after all. However, the Heaven's Thunder Palm was extremely unique. It was the strongest yang in the world, a true destructive power. His kidneys were completely dead, no different from being removed. It was impossible for him to recover completely. The key to causing such devastating damage was that Chu Li had destroyed his dantian and crippled his martial arts. He was now like an ordinary person, unable to resist or dispel the Heaven's Thunder Palm force. The Heaven's Thunder Palm force was already shocking enough with the help of his inner force. Without it, the Heaven's Thunder Palm force would be completely unleashed, and his kidneys would be doomed. Chu Li snickered in his heart, but his face was solemn. After eating the game, he sat down cross-legged and started channeling to heal himself. Su Ning and King An left quietly without alerting the protectors. Chu Li closed his eyes and pretended not to know anything. He watched them disappear and sighed in relief. This time, it was considered successful. He disguised himself as Gung Huarong and injured Prince An, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. At the same time, he could vent his anger and let Prince An rest for a while. Would the Amethyst Mountain give up and send more elite fighters over? With the 4th level of the heavenly demonic power, he was more confident. He was even looking forward to them coming again to help him advance his heavenly demonic power to the next level. The Shadow Thunder Palm and the Heaven's Thunder Palm force were great supplements for the heavenly demonic power. It was an excellent opportunity to cultivate. The martial arts of the Tempest Temple did not have such an effect. It seemed that he and the Amethyst Mountain were fated. After Prince An left, Chu Li prepared to leave as well. He asked the protectors to return to the imperial residence of Prince An while he continued to the High Duke's public house. At dawn, seeing the protectors leave, Chu Li let out a sigh of relief. Finally it was over. His merit was complete and he had gained a lot. Amazing! Amazing! A crisp and moving voice suddenly came from behind him. Chu Li turned around. Lu Yurong stood on top of a pine tree, her white robe fluttering in the wind. You saw everything? Chu Li asked. Lu Yurong exclaimed, Your method of killing with a borrowed knife is really brilliant. I am far inferior. Chu Li had the omniscient mirror. What Lu Yurong saw was what he purposely let her see. Lu Yurong did not know that he had the ability to transform. She thought that the Gung Huarong behind her was the real one. Chu Li smiled. If it were you, you would have done the same thing. Flipping the clouds and turning the rain, Lu Yurong shook her head. I am inferior. If I had to say, His Highness King An is also an outstanding person. He could actually endure it. She originally thought that King An would order the protectors to kill Chu Li. She did not expect King An to be able to endure it and even change his face. These princes should not be underestimated. The things that were passed down in their bones were extraordinary. Chu Li originally planned that if no one from the Amethyst Mountain came, Lu Yurong would attack King An and injure him so that he could not go to the High Duke's public house. The Amethyst Mountain came in time to assassinate him. Lu Yurong did not have a place to use her skills. She could only watch a good show. When Chu Li asked her to make a move, they had already agreed that regardless of whether she made a move or not, she would be added as a spy. Chu Li sighed. So you have to be careful of him. Be careful of what? Lu Yurong fluttered over to him, bringing with her a faint fragrance. His martial arts has been crippled. It will take him 3 to 5 years to recover. You can take a breather now. He won't kill you immediately. Chu Li shook his head. That might not be the case. He might have to kill me first. If he kills you, the imperial residence of King An will be finished. Lu Yurong scoffed. If he didn't know about this, would he not kill you? Is your injury okay? Chu Li looked at her with a faint smile. I am flattered that Miss Lu is so concerned about me. Of course I care about your life. Lu Yurong glanced at him and said, If you are injured, I can help you heal. Chu Li waved his hand. Thank you, my injury is fine. Are you sure? Lu Yurong asked calmly. Chu Li said, At least you can't kill me now. Lu Yurong scoffed. Nonsense, I have no intention of killing you. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. Lu Yurong said, All right, since you are fine, I will leave first. If she was confident, she would not kill Chu Li, but she wanted to cripple his martial arts. Without martial arts, Chu Li, who only had intelligence, was not that scary. It was a good thing for the Ren public house and the imperial residence of King Jing, even if his martial arts were weaker. Chu Li smiled. Why don't you try? He suddenly appeared behind Lu Yurong in a flash and hit her with his palm. Bam! Lu Yurong's right palm looked like it was carved out of white jade, smooth and delicate. When it collided with his palm, both of them took 2 steps back in the air and landed on the treetop. Chu Li said, You really have the intention to kill. If Lu Yurong did not have the intention to kill, she would not have attacked so calmly. Lu Yurong said, Same to you. Again. Chu Li flashed again and appeared in front of Lu Yurong. He hit her with his right palm. Lu Yurong's whole body looked like it was carved out of white jade. Warm light flowed around her as she blocked Chu Li's attack. Bam! Both of them flew out again. Lu Yurong frowned. She felt that Chu Li was stronger than before and more difficult to deal with. Chu Li said, Miss Lu, you have to work harder, lest you fall too far behind me. Don't forget what you promised. Lu Yurong rolled her eyes at him and flew away. Chapter 473. P.S. I've finally finished writing this chapter. Oh, I'm going crazy. The update schedule is going to be messed up. But don't worry, I'll write 6 chapters today even if I have to kowtow to the ground. Public House, Symphony Island. Early in the morning, the Symphony Island was shrouded in a thin layer of mist, like a veil, and the air was fresh. Seo Shur and Seo Chi were sitting in the gazebo, holding teacups that were surrounded by white steam as they chatted. Both of them were wearing moon-white gowns. Their faces were like white jade, and their eyebrows were somewhat similar. They were so beautiful that it was dazzling. Little sister, are you not going to wait for Big Brother's wedding? There are too many people here. I'm leaving today. Don't tell me we're leaving now. After drinking tea, I will leave the mansion. Not waiting for Chu Li to come back? Xiao Shi put down her teacup. Shao Qi gently shook her head. Xiao Shi looked at her with a frown. Shao Qi said, "Second eldest sister, I've chosen this path. I'm destined to be alone for the rest of my life. Why should I trouble Chu Li?" Xiao Shi was surprised. "Is your regal sword scripture really that powerful? Can you really forget Chu Li?" "So what if I forget? So what if I can't forget?" Shao Qi shook her head and said, "It's just like Buddhism's liberation. Once you get over it and let it go, there won't be any turbulence in your heart. You won't be too excited and worried." "How do you feel when you see Chu Li now?" Xiao Shi was curious. She had heard from Shao Qi about the two of them, so she knew why Chu Li always wore a white robe. She knew that Chu Li had taken the initiative to cut off his feelings for her. She felt that he was stupid and pitiful at the same time. He had fallen in love with a cold woman like her third younger sister, yet they had to separate and could not be together. It was really cruel. Shao Qi furrowed her brows. "It's like meeting an old friend. It's very kind and warm. Not excited. There's nothing to be excited about. This regal sword scripture is really powerful." Xiao Shi shook her head and sighed. "Let's not cultivate it, it's too torturous." "I don't feel like I'm being tortured." "It's Chu Li who's being tortured," Shao Qi said. "If you have time, try to persuade him. Don't waste your time on me." "It would be weird if he could listen." Xiao Shi pouted her red lips. "Do you really have to cultivate that sword scripture?" Shao Qi picked up the teacup and took a sip. "It's my only hope to become an enlightened master." Sigh. Xiao Shi shook her head and said, "Why does it have to be an enlightened master? This is good enough." "Fate is in the hands of others," Shao Qi said. "Haven't we siblings suffered enough?" When their father left, the huge public house was only handed over to a few children. The burden and fear they carried could not be told to outsiders. A marriage alliance with the Huai public house and the imperial residence of King An would be enough to deal with threats from others. "Where's the emperor?" "The emperor won't deal with us, right? I'm the meat on someone else's chopping block. I don't like this feeling." Shao Qi said, "Second eldest sister, you're in Fairy's capital, so you can feel the emperor's majesty even more. Your life is in his hands." "All right." Xiao Shi nodded and said, "You're right, but what if you don't succeed even after cultivating for a lifetime?" "If I can't master it by 30, I'll give up," Shao Qi said. Xiao Shi smiled. "There's finally hope for Chu Li." Shao Qi glanced at her. Xiao Shi snapped, "Did I say something wrong? Why are you looking at me like that?" "Second eldest sister, do you think Chu Li will be with me?" Shao Qi said faintly. "One of you is in love and the other is interested. Why won't you be together?" Xiao Shi scoffed, "Stop torturing him." Shao Qi shook her head gently. "Just like a mirror with a crack, there will be a crack when you put it back together. If there's a crack, then there's a crack. There's nothing in this world that doesn't have a crack." Xiao Shi said snappily, "Just be content. When you're 30, even if he doesn't like you, you just have to hold on to him." Shao Qi revealed a smile. This was the difference between her and second eldest sister. One was more practical while the other was more spiritual. Chu Li suddenly appeared in the pagoda and interrupted the two women's conversation. Xiao Shi waved her hand. "Chu Li, you came just in time. I was about to leave." Chu Li looked at Shao Qi. Shao Qi nodded calmly. "I can't attend Big Brother's wedding. In case too many people see, I have to leave quietly." "I'll send you back," Chu Li said. Shao Qi looked at him and slowly nodded. Xiao Shi smiled. "Then you send me back first." "What about Prince An?" Shao Qi asked. Chu Li let out a smile. "It's settled. He returned to the imperial residence and won't come back to cause trouble." "How did you deal with him?" Xiao Shi quickly asked. "He won't go back obediently. I sneaked an attack and crippled his martial arts, of course." Chu Li smiled. "That's ruthless. But it was really satisfying. I crippled his martial arts." Xiaoshi pursed her lips and smiled. He's going crazy this time. Chu Li said, Second lady, stay here for a while longer so that he won't vent his anger on you. Of course. Xiao Shi smiled. I don't want to go back. Xiao Qi frowned. How can you be so reckless? What if the emperor? As long as you don't kill him, the emperor won't care. Chu Li shook his head. The emperor treats me as Prince An's whetstone. Since I'm a whetstone, of course, I have to train him well. It'll only take him 3 to 5 years to cultivate again. It's not a big deal. You have to be careful. Xiao Qi muttered. The emperor is an enlightened master. He can do whatever he wants. He might not do as you think. Yes, I'll be careful, Chu Li said. Xiao Shi pursed her lips and smiled. All right, you guys can leave. Don't hang around me. Xiao Qi glanced at her faintly and then looked at Chu Li. Send me back. Chu Li extended his hand and held her wrist through her sleeve. He suddenly disappeared in front of Xiao Shi. After a few flashes, Chu Li and Xiao Qi appeared in Snow Lunar Pavilion, in a waterside pavilion on the lake. Xiao Qi frowned and looked at him. Are you hurt? Chu Li said, It's nothing serious. Fairy's capital is very dangerous. Be careful. You should go back first, Xiao Qi said slowly. Chu Li said, You're going to go into isolated cultivation soon? Yes. When will you come out? Xiao Qi said, I'm not planning to come out. I'll stay in isolated cultivation until I become an enlightened master. Chu Li sighed and nodded. All right, I'm leaving. He suddenly disappeared in front of Xiao Qi. Xiao Qi frowned and looked at where he was standing. There was still a trace of his aura in the waterside pavilion. It was an aura that was familiar yet unfamiliar to her. She quickly put aside her distracting thoughts and focused on thinking about the regal sword scripture. If she wanted to improve, she had to understand the regal sword scripture and understand its wonders. When Chu Li returned to the island of Symphony, Xiao Shi looked at him with a smile like a flower. Chu Li had already sorted out his emotions. He decided not to think about it anymore. He would think about it later. She was going into isolated cultivation anyway, so he was not in a hurry. Once he reached the enlightened master's boundary, spending time with her would naturally rekindle their old feelings. Xiao Shi shook her head and pouted her red lips. She scoffed, You're back so soon. You're really useless. Chu Li said, Second lady, you really have nothing to worry about. You should think about Master Xiao. Big Brother and the others have already left. There's nothing to worry about, Xiao Shi said. King In is not here. I don't think anyone will do anything. Chu Li frowned. There might be assassins along the way. Why didn't they wait for me? They can handle it, Xiao Shi said. You're also a worrywart. Just pretend you didn't come back. Chu Li thought about it and could only do so. Chapter 474. It was rare for Chu Li to let it go. He did not think about Master Xiao Taiying's wedding anymore. He believed that Master Xiao Taiying would be able to overcome any assassinations along the way. 6 days later, the wedding procession returned to Chongming Town. In the morning, the whole town was in a festive atmosphere. Strings of red lanterns were hung all over the town. Every household consciously hung red silk on their doors. The whole town was in a festive mood. The public house was deeply loved by the people of Chongming Town. Master Xiao Taiying had a good reputation and was loved by the people. Before the wedding procession entered the town, the people had already gathered on both sides of the street or stood in the restaurants, waiting to see the bride and groom. Chu Li and Tian Shi walked on both sides of the street with 2 grandmasters following behind them. Chief Chu, there should be no problem. Tian Shi wore a sapphire blue gown. He walked calmly and elegantly. All the spies in the town have been activated. No one out of the ordinary has entered the town. Outsiders have been banned since last night. Chu Li walked slowly and nodded with his hands behind his back. The 2 grandmasters looked left and right. They had sharp senses. If there was someone with murderous intent, they would be able to sense it. They would discover it in advance and send the person away to avoid destruction later. Chu Li suddenly stopped. Tian Shi and the other two grandmasters stopped as well. Chief Chu, is there a problem? Tian Shi asked. Chu Li pointed at the Sky Inn, the one with embroidered clothes up there. Tian Shi looked up. Chu Li said, the one with a yellow face and doesn't know martial arts. Do you see him? Is there a problem with this person? Tian Shi frowned. I don't think he knows martial arts. Chu Li nodded. There is no problem with him. The person behind him is. Behind. Tian Shi raised his head and looked around, but he didn't see anyone behind the old man. Chu Li said, he is a powerful person. Then shall we go up and take a look? Tian Shi tried to ask. After he came to the public house, he realized how high Chu Li's position in the public house was. Even if he left, he still had a huge influence. As long as he sent a message, everyone in the public house would obey. This was the supreme prestige. If it was not for Master Xiao Taiying's open and magnanimous attitude, others would not be able to tolerate his existence. Although Tian Shi was proud of his intelligence, he did not challenge Chu Li's position. Instead, he displayed his intelligence bit by bit and did not provoke Master Xiao Taiying's scruples. After all, he was different from Chu Li. Chu Li started off as a servant in the High Duke's public house. Step by step, it seemed like he had ascended to the sky in a single bound, but it was all a single footprint. It was just that his contributions were too quick and too big. One step at a time, there was no shortcut. On the other hand, because of Chu Li's recommendation, he had directly stepped into the upper echelons of the House of High Dukes to give advice to Master Xiao Taiying. He was more like a strategist, completely different from Chu Li, who had risen from the bottom. If his foundation was not stable, he would not be able to reach his position. It was impossible for him to reach the stage where he could command everyone to follow his orders. Chu Li, Tian Shi, and the two grandmasters stepped onto the third floor of the Sky Inn. Tian Shi glanced at the middle-aged man standing beside the old man. He had a medium build, a dignified appearance, and a righteous expression on his face, giving people a good impression of him. After the four of them entered, the middle-aged man glanced at them and looked out of the window. His gaze was calm. Tian Shi could not feel any murderous intent from him. Instead, he was calm and peaceful. Chu Li came in front of the middle-aged man. Brother, sorry to disturb you, but why do you have to throw away your golden years? What do you mean, sir? The middle-aged man frowned. Chu Li said, Brother, you are from the returning sword sect, right? The middle-aged man shook his head. Chu Li smiled. I'm not afraid of death, but I'm afraid of revealing my sect. Isn't it a pity to die in obscurity? What do you mean, sir? I don't understand. The middle-aged man scoffed. What returning sword sect? What do you mean by dying? I just want to watch the show. Who are you people? Chu Li said, Su Quan of the returning sword sect, right? The middle-aged man frowned, and finally got rid of his wishful thinking. As a secret master of the returning sword sect, he actually knew his name. Could there be a traitor? But he was the only one who knew about this. He had never told anyone else. Chu Li sighed. I admire Brother Su's loyalty, but I really can't agree with you. The returning sword sect is digging its own grave. Why must you be buried with it? I was born as a member of the returning sword sect, and I'll die as a ghost of the returning sword sect. Su Quan said coldly, Who are you? Chu Li said, I'm Chu Li, the chief of the Gloriesville courtyard. No wonder it's you. Su Quan suddenly realized. He had heard about Chu Li from the public house for a long time. It was said that Chu Li's wisdom was comparable to that of a celestial being. Now it seemed that Chu Li's reputation was well-deserved. He actually knew his identity. Chu Li sighed. Brother Su, do you really want to die with me? That's right, Su Quan said in a deep voice. The surrounding people had already slowly backed away, making way for them. Chu Li said, "If that's the case, then I can only offend you." As soon as he finished speaking, he appeared behind Su Quan in a flash, and lightly pressed his palm on his back. Su Quan had just moved a little, but he immediately froze. Chu Li followed up with 3 more palm strikes, one on his shoulders and the back of his waist, completely sealing his acupuncture point. Tian Shi was secretly shocked. Chu Li's body movement technique was so fast that it was impossible to defend against it, and no one could react in time. Chu Li sighed and waved his hand. "Brother Su, please go to the High Duke's public house for a chat, and try to persuade him." "I'll bring him back," a Grandmaster said. Chu Li smiled. "Thank you, Elder Cheng." The Grandmaster shook his head, smiled, and carried Su Quan as he fluttered away. Chu Li fist saluted, and smiled at the surrounding people. "Everyone, sorry to disturb you." "You're welcome, Chief Chu." The crowd fist saluted and smiled. Chu Li's reputation grew as time passed, and he was already a legendary figure in Chongming Town. Especially when he left Chongming Town for the fairy's capital, and became the head chief of the imperial residence, he became famous in the fairy's capital, and it added to his legendary aura. Chu Li, Tian Shi, and another Grandmaster left the Sky Inn, and continued to walk along the street. Tian Shi asked in surprise, "How did Chief Chu find him?" Chu Li smiled. "Intuition, maybe my intuition is sharper." "Miraculous." Tian Shi shook his head. That Su Quan was also an experienced assassin, and he hid his body very well, evading Tian Shi's sight, and he was able to completely hide his killing intent, avoiding the senses of a Grandmaster. He was really a master. However, such a master was actually discovered by Chu Li from so far away. Chu Li's intuition was somewhat beyond imagination, and it was almost divine. Chu Li smiled. "This is nothing, I'll naturally get used to it after some time. Our mission is very important, we have to go around the town twice. With this method we should be able to go around it," Tian Shi smiled. Chu Li nodded. The group continued to walk along the street. Chu Li knew that it was difficult to kill all the dangers, but it was better to kill as many as possible, and it was better than to cause trouble later. The noise came from afar, and then the sound of various musical instruments could be heard. The crowd was like a flood, and it kept surging in this direction. Tian Shi smiled. "Master Xiao Taiying has entered the town." Chu Li said, "Let's go." The real time to test the protectors had arrived, and they did not know how many people would come to cause trouble. The 3 of them quickly approached, and saw Master Xiao Taiying sitting on a snow-white horse, in high spirits and full of heroic spirit. Chapter 475. Xiao Taiying looked down from his horse and waved at Chu Li. Chu Li closed fist, saluted and smiled. Amidst the music, the crowd moved forward. Chu Li and Tian Shi were in the middle of the crowd, surrounded by people. It was as if they were in the middle of the sea, they could not help but be carried forward. Chu Li was like a fish in the sea, moving swiftly and smoothly. He patted a person lightly, then went out and patted another person. Tian Shi saw him patting the shoulders of 3 people in the crowd. The 3 people's faces turned pale, they were injured. Chu Li's body movement technique was fast and his inner energy was strong. The 3 people were masters in hiding, but they could not escape his eyes. One by one, they were injured and could no longer jump out to cause trouble. Tian Shi could not help but praise him. What a good technique! Chu Li had such a reputation, and it was not by luck that he had such a reputation. He had a real ability that people could not compare to. There was no way to be jealous. Chu Li moved through the crowd like a fish. He looked at the shaking red bridal sedan, and shook his head with a smile. Master Xiao Taiying also knew how to play tricks. There was no one in the sedan. It was an empty sedan. The bride had probably already entered the public house, or would sneak into the public house later. This was a foolproof move. If there was an assassination, the bride would not be hurt. The crowd moved. Chu Li moved through the crowd and stopped the 6 masters. He protected the wedding procession all the way to the public house's main gate. Once they entered the main gate, they would be safe. He was finally able to take a good breath and completely relax. As soon as he stepped into the public house's main gate, Lin Quan quietly came over and whispered, "Chief Chu, someone from the Imperial House is here." Chu Li raised his eyebrows. "The Imperial House? It's the scribe from the Imperial House. They brought a lot of rewards. I'm afraid it's from the Emperor." Lin Quan lowered his voice. Chu Li frowned and slowly nodded. "All right, I'll go welcome them." He was afraid that they did not come with good intentions. The Emperor would not welcome the marriage between the 2 public houses. Lin Quan said, "The scribe from the Imperial House is already outside the town. Master Shao Taiying is entering the public house. I thought it would be better not to disturb Master Shao Taiying." Chu Li replied, I'll greet the scribes from the Imperial House first. Then, I'll observe the situation and send someone over to inform Master Shao Taiying if they're going to officially welcome him." "What a coincidence!" "Yes," Lin Quan replied in a low voice and quietly retreated. Chu Li, on the other hand, brought along a few protectors and traveled along a secluded path using his light body technique. Not only did the noise in the city not dissipate, it became even more fervent. When Chu Li arrived outside the city gate, he saw a few young men in purple robes sitting on horses outside the city. There were a total of 6 of them, and they were surrounding 2 carriages. They were sizing up Chongming Town and wanted to enter the town. "Are you scribes from the Imperial House?" Chu Li greeted them with a fist salute. "I am Chu Li, chief of the High Duke's public house." The knight in the lead was a handsome young man with a tall and straight figure. He was indeed a rare handsome man. With a sincere smile on his handsome face, he jumped off the horse and cupped his fists. "Chief Steward Chu, this lowly one is Lin Yuanshan. I have come under the Emperor's orders to congratulate Shao Gongye on his wedding." The rest of the scribes also jumped off the horse and cupped their fists to return the gesture. Chu Li smiled. "Lin Fengzhao, Master Shao Gongye could not come and greet you personally, so he ordered me to greet you on his behalf. I hope that Lin Fengzhao will not be offended." He could see Lin Yuanshan's official rank. The scribes from the Imperial House also had official ranks, and their ranks were similar to those from the Imperial House. Lin Yuanshan was a rank 5 Fengzhao. In the Imperial House, which was even stricter than the Imperial House, it was rare for him to be so young. He had a bright future ahead of him. "Hee, what are you talking about?" Lin Yuanshan waved his hand and smiled. "Master Shao Gongye has just brought the bride in. If we were to ask Master Shao Gongye to leave the bride behind and come and greet us, that would be rude." Chu Li laughed. "Lin Fengzhao is here on behalf of the Emperor. How can we neglect him? Let's enter the public house first, and then let Master Shao Gongye toast everyone. Come please." All right, then let's not stand on ceremony," Lin Yuanshan smiled. Under Chu Li's company, everyone entered the town. Looking at the bustling Chongming town, Lin Yuanshan smiled. It seems that Master Shao Gongye is indeed a virtuous person and has the support of the people. Chu Li smiled. "Let's all join in the fun. It's rare to have such a happy event. As for saying that it's for Master Shao Gongye, that's just flattering Master Shao Gongye. Head Chief Chu Li is too humble. We've heard of Master Shao Gongye's virtuous name in the Imperial House." Lin Yuanshan shook his head and smiled. As the saying goes, hearing about him is not as good as meeting him in person. This time, I've finally witnessed Master Shao Gongye's prestige. Chu Li said, "It's fine if it's just the public house, but once we leave Chongming Town, there aren't many people who know Master Shao Gongye. I've even caught a few assassins just now. There are many people who like Master Shao Gongye, but there are even more people who hate Master Shao Gongye. Sigh. This is the fate of the public house. There's nothing we can do about it." Yes. Lin Yuanshan quickly nodded. The public house has worked hard. It's really tough. Chu Li smiled. Lin Fengzhao has such thoughts. On behalf of the protectors of the public house, I want to thank you. He, everyone understands the hard work of the public house, Lin Yuanshan smiled. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. Everyone understands the hard work of the public house, but they tend to overlook it. They think that it's the public house's business, and that the protectors of the public house deserve to die. Sigh. Lin Yuanshan sighed. Everyone is raised by their parents. Who would have such thoughts? Chu Li said, there's always a group of people in the imperial court who are against the public house. They think that the public house is too powerful and should be abolished. Lin Yuanshan nodded. Yes, these people don't know the dangers of the martial arts world. They think that the public house is too powerful. However, most people understand the public house and know the severity of the situation. Chu Li sighed. It's all thanks to the Emperor's insight. That's right, that's right. Lin Yuanshan closed fist saluted towards the fairy's capital. The Emperor's insight is vast. No one can deceive him. Chu Li knew that Lin Yuanshan was here to deliver gifts, but he also had the responsibility of visiting the Emperor. He had to report everything he had seen and heard along the way to the Emperor. Naturally, he could not let the Emperor feel that Chongming Town was like an iron bucket, where everyone was crowding around Master Xiao Taiying. When they arrived at the public house, there was already a group of people standing outside the public house. Master Xiao Taiying had received the news from Chu Li and was waiting with everyone. When Lin Yuanshan saw this, he closed fist saluted and laughed. Master Xiao, you're too kind. I'm here on the Emperor's order to congratulate you on your wedding. The Emperor has given me a number of gifts. Please allow me to read the list of gifts. Thank you, Lin Fengzhao. Xiao Taiying closed fist saluted. Lin Yuanshan took out a booklet from his sleeve and started reading. 10 pieces of 8 jewels. A pair of jade scepter. 6 sets of natural silk quilts. Everyone was speechless. The Emperor was generous and all of them were treasures. After Lin Yuanshan finished reading, he kept the booklet and waved his hand. 2 carriages slowly approached each other. A scribe from the imperial house got on the carriage and opened up 4 big boxes. Instantly, the smell of pearls and jewels filled the air. Xiao Taiying smiled and closed fist saluted. Chu Li and his men kept the carriages and entered the public house. Everyone took their seat. Lin Yuanshan sat on the main seat with Chu Li accompanying him. Chapter 476. P.S. My sincere apologies for being late. I clenched my teeth and forced myself to complete 6 chapters in the end. Without everyone's support, I might have given up today. Thanks again. Chu Li poured a cup of wine for Lin Yuanshan. Lin Fengzhao didn't bring any protectors with him? The few of them. Lin Yuanshan pointed at a few scribes sitting nearby. They are all protectors, but they are disguised as scribes to avoid attracting attention. Fortunately, the House of High Duke's territory is peaceful. It was just a false alarm. Chu Li smiled. If these treasures are snatched away by someone else, that would really be. Lin Yuanshan smiled bitterly and said, I've been on tenterhooks along the way. I didn't even dare to relax for a moment. I couldn't even sleep well. Chu Li said, they know that they can't provoke Master Xiao Taiying during his wedding, so they've all become well-behaved. Otherwise, it's hard to say if these 2 carriages of treasures would be snatched away. Lin Yuanshan smiled and said, Eldest young master is really good at managing the residence. It's so peaceful. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. I'm sure Lin Fengzhao has heard about the disturbance that happened a while ago. That's why he's so well-behaved now that the storm has just passed. He's not usually this calm, so Lin Fengzhao should be careful. I see. Lin Yuanshan nodded. Amidst the clamor of the crowd, the eldest young master ended the ceremonial ceremony and began to toast to everyone. The hall became more and more lively. During this period, Chu Li would wake up from time to time and walk around the public house to see if there were any rascals asking for trouble. After walking one round, he returned to the table and continued to talk to Lin Yuanshan, urging him to drink. Chu Li could see through Lin Yuanshan's thoughts, so he went along with the flow of the wine. Even though Lin Yuanshan was shrewd and careful, he couldn't help but let down his guard and call Chu Li his brother. After the prosperity, the public house seemed empty. Chu Li bid farewell to Xiao Shi and Xiao Taiying. He left the public house and returned to the fairy's capital with Lin Yuanshan. The High Duke's public house could not help but let these people travel alone. If something really happened, they would not be able to escape responsibility. Chu Li's escort was the best solution. Early in the morning, Chu Li and the others left the public house and headed towards the fairy's capital. It would only take them 2 days to reach the fairy's capital. The morning air was fresh and pleasant, and his mood was inexplicably refreshed. Chu Li and Lin Yuanshan walked side by side. "Brother Chu, there's actually no need to escort us." Lin Yuanshan smiled. "The High Duke's public house is very safe. Nothing will happen. Moreover, we don't have any treasures now, so we won't get into any trouble." The two of them were now addressing each other as brothers. Lin Yuanshan's relationship with Chu Li had deepened after getting drunk yesterday. Chu Li shook his head. Lin Yuanshan smiled and said, "What is Brother Xiao worried about?" Chu Li said, "People of the martial arts world are the least afraid of death. In order to take revenge on the High Duke's public house, they would rather perish together. During the wedding, I caught more than 10 martial arts masters. They all had good cultivation levels, but they did not want to live. They wanted to sacrifice themselves to assassinate Master Xiao. Sigh. These martial artists are too hot-blooded." Lin Yuanshan shook his head and sighed. "I do admire it, but it's a pity that it can't be used in the right way. How good would it be if it could be used to kill enemies?" "That's right." Chu Li nodded. "These people are very stubborn. I admire them very much, but I can't persuade them." "How did Brother Xiao deal with it?" "Cripple his martial arts." Lin Yuanshan looked like he could not bear to see it. "Crippling their martial arts is actually quite serious. Without martial arts, it's over. If I don't cripple their martial arts, I can only take their lives." Chu Li looked helpless. "I really can't bear to kill these people. But if I don't kill them, the damage they cause is shocking. If it's not handled well, the protectors of the High Duke's public house might die." "That's true." Lin Yuanshan nodded. Chu Li said, "Crippling their martial arts is considered good. If they want to recover, they can slowly train. Even if they can't, at least they'll be stronger than normal martial arts masters. They're not young anymore. It'll be hard for them to return to their peak." "Oh right, Brother Lin, you've been in the Imperial House for a long time. Do you know of any way to recover martial arts?" "About that." Lin Yuanshan thought for a while and shook his head. "I don't think there's a way. Everyone knows that it's easy to save people, but it's hard to recover martial arts." "Can the Emperor do it?" Chu Li asked. "The Emperor is an enlightened master." Lin Yuanshan smiled. "An enlightened master is just a martial arts master. He's not an enlightened master." Chu Li was secretly happy. "I heard that an enlightened master has an incredible divine power. They can see through everything and nothing can hide. Everyone doesn't understand an enlightened master. It's just a rumor." Lin Yuanshan shook his head. "Actually, it's not that strange. I've always been by the Emperor's side and I didn't notice anything different about him." "The Emperor must be very powerful, right?" Chu Li asked. Lin Yuanshan laughed. "The Emperor is like someone who doesn't practice martial arts. He's very kind. However, no one dares to be careless. The Emperor is usually kind, but once he makes a mistake, he'll be ruthless. Being with the Emperor is like being with a tiger." Chu Li laughed. Lin Yuanshan shook his head and laughed, but he didn't say anything. Chu Li said, I'm very curious about an enlightened master. Unfortunately, I don't have the fortune to stay by the Emperor's side. Lin Yuanshan laughed. Actually, from what I see, the Emperor is more like a normal person. He doesn't look like a martial arts master. An enlightened master, Chu Li said. Lin Yuanshan said, all these years, the Emperor hasn't used any martial arts. From what I know, an enlightened master can be possessed by an enlightened master. They aren't enlightened masters themselves. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Possessed by an enlightened master? Chu Li had always wanted to befriend Lin Yuanshan because he wanted to find out the secrets of an enlightened master. Moreover, having someone close to him in the imperial house would be very beneficial to him in the future. Lin Yuanshan was a cautious person. He was the only one who could use the effects of alcohol, the omniscient mirror, and the right time to open up his guard. If he missed this opportunity, it would be difficult for him to communicate with him. More importantly, Lin Yuanshan had a good heart. He wasn't a cold-hearted person. He could be trusted and cooperated with. Lin Yuanshan said, the 4 major sects have this secret skill. Actually, it's just a fake enlightened master. Once they use the enlightened master's possession, the enlightened master will control them. After that, it will cause damage to their body. Most of these secret skills have a very strong backlash. They can only use it a few times in their lifetime. However, an enlightened master can control an enlightened master. There are no side effects after using the enlightened master's possession. This is an enlightened master? Chu Li was shocked. Lin Yuanshan laughed. Isn't that enough? Once an enlightened master's possession is done, no one will be able to defeat him. Moreover, some enlightened master's divine powers can be used as well. One person can fight against an entire country. This is an enlightened master, Lin Yuanshan said with a look of fascination. Chu Li laughed. Brother Lin, you want to become an enlightened master too? It's impossible for me. Lin Yuanshan shook his head. Not everyone can become an enlightened master. Brother Chu, since you're so curious, you want to become an enlightened master too, right? Yes. Chu Li admitted. He knew that honesty was the best way to get along with Lin Yuanshan. Lin Yuanshan hated lies. Lin Yuanshan frowned. Difficult. Difficult. Chu Li laughed. Brother Lin, do you have any ideas? Cultivating the 4 major sects martial arts can help you reach the enlightened master's boundary. Lin Yuanshan pondered. But it's getting harder. Other than that, there seems to be no other way. Chapter 477. Chu Li already knew what Lin Yuanshan had said. However, he had gained a lot, especially from what Lin Yuanshan had said about the Emperor's usual appearance. It felt like a person without any martial arts. This was a strange state. Other martial arts masters could not do it, but he could. Usually, inner energy would be scattered outside, leaving only a trace in the dantian. With a single thought, spiritual energy from all directions would rush in, turning into turbulent inner energy. This was using the void of the world as the dantian. For the Emperor to be able to do this, his method might be different from his own. Usually, he didn't need inner force. With just a thought, he could be possessed by the gods and instantly reach the pinnacle state. In that case, this divine possession was also a burden to the Emperor, and he couldn't maintain it forever. He had seen the enlightened master's possession on the disciples of the Tempest Temple and the Titanium Temple. It was truly terrifying. His heavenly demonic power had reached level 4, and when the heavenly demonic energy was attached to his chest, he had actually reached a similar state. His strength was several times stronger than usual. Others were possessed by the heavenly god, but he was possessed by the heavenly demon. He vaguely figured out the trick. These martial arts that could allow God's possession and Sky Demon's possession were very likely God's martial art. As long as they cultivated it to the extreme, they could reach the God's realm. The Vajra Sarira art made use of Sariras. Once cultivated to a certain level, one would be able to form a Sarira themselves and use the Sarira to summon the Buddha to possess their body. The power was boundless, and that was the heavenly god realm. Where was his heavenly demonic power? He did not know where the limit of the heavenly demonic power was. Currently, he did not have any side effects from the heavenly demonic possession, but he could not maintain it for too long. After using it, he would feel extremely hungry and would need to eat a lot. If he continued to practice, what kind of power would he have? He must be slowly approaching the level of a heavenly god. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, he finally had a vague outline of the enlightened master. He was no longer a blind man trying to figure out an elephant. They traveled from morning to night and found a dilapidated temple in the evening. The doors and windows were all gone, but it was much better than sleeping in the wild. A fire was lit in the middle of the room, and the guards sat around it, chatting to kill time. Chief Chu, what kind of martial arts are you practicing? You've improved so quickly, a guard from the imperial house asked. Chu Li smiled. The Infinite Azure Sea. Infinite Azure Sea art. The crowd pondered for a moment before shaking their heads. They had no recollection of it. The guards of the imperial house had grown up in the imperial house, and the mental cultivation techniques they practiced were the best. They had never heard of the Infinite Azure Sea. In the High Duke's public house, even in the martial arts world, the Infinite Azure Sea was considered a top-notch martial art. However, in the imperial house it was just average. The imperial house protectors did not know how to cultivate it, and very few knew about it. I think I've seen it before, a guard from the imperial house said with a smile. I think I've seen this mental cultivation method before when I was choosing martial arts techniques. That doesn't seem too bad, someone beside him said with a smile. Chu Li smiled. A good heart technique is something that suits you. The Infinite Sea of Azure suits me very well. After that, I also cultivated some torso tuning technique. The art of White Tiger can be considered to complement the Infinite Sea of Azure. Infinite Azure Sea Technique. Lin Yuanshan said, I know this mental cultivation technique. Stacking inner energy, right? Chu Li nodded. No wonder Brother Chu is so powerful. Lin Yuanshan smiled and said, I use the Infinite Azure Sea. I really have to cultivate the sun-cultivating White Tiger portrait. Otherwise, I won't be able to withstand it. Chu Li smiled. Brother Lin is very knowledgeable. Lin Yuanshan smiled and said, I wonder how many stacks Brother Chu can stack? 5 stacks, Chu Li said. 6 stacks is a bit strenuous. I'll get injured after using it. No wonder. Lin Yuanshan sighed. Chu Li suddenly frowned and looked outside the temple. Lin Yuanshan quickly looked over but did not see anything strange. Chu Li said, There are masters coming, everyone be careful. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 black shadows shot into the temple and pounced towards Lin Yuanshan. Chu Li stood in front of Lin Yuanshan and punched with both his fists. Bang! Bang! 2 muffled sounds were heard. The 2 black shadows were blocked and revealed. One of them was tall and the other was short. They looked ordinary and no one would notice them if they stood in the crowd. Their eyes were glowing as they stared at Lin Yuanshan, who was behind Chu Li. It was as if they had a deep-rooted hatred and were ready to pounce on him at any time. Lin Yuanshan frowned and looked at them. Chu Li said, Brother Lin, do you recognize them? I've never seen them before. I don't leave the imperial house very often. I don't have any enemies. Lin Yuanshan shook his head. The 2 of them pounced on them again. The 8 imperial house protectors around them had already reacted. They stood in front of Chu Li and Lin Yuanshan and pounced on the 2 men in black. Among the 8 imperial house protectors, there was a grandmaster and the rest were innate masters. Chu Li and Lin Yuanshan took a few steps back as they watched the 8 of them surround the 2 men. The 2 men's body movement technique was extremely fast and their cultivation level was high. They were able to handle the 8 of them with ease and still had the upper hand. Grandmasters! Lin Yuanshan frowned. He was in disbelief. I've never offended a grandmaster before. If they were in the fairies' capital, it would not be unusual to see a grandmaster, especially in the imperial residence or the imperial house. It would be unusual to see a grandmaster in the wilderness. The person who could command a grandmaster was not an ordinary person. Who are you? Chu Li asked. The 2 of them curled their lips and looked at him mockingly. Chu Li was an extremely intelligent person. Why would he ask such a stupid question? Who would answer him? Chu Li asked again, "What do you want?" The 2 of them smiled coldly. Chu Li shook his head and looked at Lin Yuanshan. "Brother Lin, they're here for you." "I didn't offend anyone, did I?" Lin Yuanshan was confused. Chu Li said, "They want to know the secrets of the imperial house because of your identity." "Then who are they?" Lin Yuanshan frowned. Chu Li smiled. "They want to know the secrets of the imperial house. I guess they're from the Holy Church of Light?" The faces of the 2 men in black changed. They realized that Chu Li's reputation was well-deserved. They were filled with murderous intent. Their bodies suddenly changed and emitted a mountainous and ocean-like aura. It was as if they had changed into 2 different people, from rabbits to tigers. Chu Li laughed. He grabbed Lin Yuanshan and dashed out of the temple. The 2 of them were stunned and chased after him. They were too lazy to look at the Imperial House protectors as they were worthless. They only wanted to capture Lin Yuanshan, who was taken away. The Imperial House protectors chased after them. In just a short while, the 2 of them had disappeared. Chu Li carried Lin Yuanshan and flew away. The 2 men in black were getting closer. Lin Yuanshan said, "Brother Chu, you should leave first." Chu Li laughed. "Brother Lin, you're thinking too much." He sped up and increased the distance between him and the 2 men in black. Lin Yuanshan said, "They're too powerful. I'm afraid you're no match for them. They won't be able to catch up to us. These people from the Holy Church of Light are interesting. They want to know the secrets of the Imperial House. Are they going to kill the Emperor?" Chu Li smiled. "That's impossible. The Emperor is an enlightened master. They're just digging their own graves." Lin Yuanshan shook his head. "That's strange." Chu Li said. Chapter 478. Lin Yuanshan was shocked. Chu Li smiled. "They won't be able to catch up." Lin Yuanshan looked at the 2 men in black, who were getting closer, and was secretly worried. Chu Li said, "I'm curious, why are they looking for you, Brother Lin?" "Secrets of the Imperial House." Lin Yuanshan frowned. "What secrets are there in the Imperial House?" "There must be a reason," Chu Li said. "Unfortunately, they are only here to capture someone. We don't know anything." He had always wondered why the Holy Church of Light went to the fairies' capital. It did not seem like they were here to assassinate, it seemed like their target was the Imperial House. "Are they really from the Holy Church of Light?" Lin Yuanshan asked. "The Holy Church of Light shouldn't be in the Ji dynasty. The Holy Church of Light is different from before. I think the bishop has changed, it's going to be an eventful time. Why don't we return to the fairies' capital first?" Chu Li said. "What about the protectors?" "Just send them a message." "That would be for the best," Lin Yuanshan said. Since he was wanted by the Holy Church of Light, he was the source of trouble. It would be better for the protectors to leave first. Chu Li sped up and the distance between them lengthened. The 2 men in black looked gloomy and their eyes were filled with anger. They understood that Chu Li was toying with them. He was faster than the 2 of them with Lin Yuanshan, but he did not escape in one go. He wanted to play a trick on them. How despicable! They had already activated their secret skills, but they still could not catch up to Chu Li. There was no hope. As they thought about this, they turned around and walked back. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. "They are not stupid." Lin Yuanshan said, "Are they going back to deal with the protectors?" Chu Li nodded. "They are courting death. I can only fulfill their wish. He sped up and caught up with the two men in black in the blink of an eye. His right hand flashed. TSS. A flash of lightning flashed. The tall and skinny man in black moved sideways to avoid the blade, but Chu Li's other blade came. The tall and skinny man in black continued to dodge. Chu Li closed the distance between them and swung his hand again. The tall and skinny man in black lowered his head and almost fell to the ground to avoid the blade. Chu Li shook his head and chased after him. He was only 10 steps away now. He swung his arm again, and a bolt of lightning flashed in the air. Chi! The flying dagger seemed to cut through cloth as it sped up. The other short man in black sensed that something was wrong. He was alarmed, but he didn't have time to react. The flying knife pierced through his chest, sending a spray of blood into the pine tree behind him. Old Jing! The lanky black-clothed man shouted. Chu Li's flying blade came again. The tall and skinny man in black's eyes were bright. His body suddenly shrank and became as tall as his companion. In a flash, he appeared in front of Chu Li. His fist was already in front of Chu Li's chest. It was so fast that Chu Li's eyes could not follow it. Chu Li placed his right palm in front of his chest. Bang! He and Lin Yuanshan flew more than 10 meters away. Bang! The man in black was hot on his heels, throwing punch after punch. Chu Li did not even have the strength to fight back and could only defend himself. Lin Yuanshan was frightened by the fist that was so close to him. He couldn't see the man's movements clearly, but he felt like he was in a raging sea, like a small boat that could capsize at any time and lose his life. After throwing more than 20 punches, the man in black forced Chu Li and Lin Yuanshan to move more than 100 meters away. Chu Li knew what he was thinking. After receiving another punch, he suddenly disappeared in front of the man in black and appeared behind another man who was healing himself. Chu Li hit him with his palm. Bang! The man in black who was hit by the flying knife flew up and spat out a mouthful of blood. Chu Li laughed and fluttered away with Lin Yuanshan. Lin Yuanshan saw that the man in black did not chase after them and let out a long sigh of relief. We finally got rid of them. Aren't they not afraid of death? Chu Li smiled. They're different from humans. Some are not afraid of death, but they don't want to die. Good, that's good. As long as they don't want to die. Lin Yuanshan smiled. The two fluttered away at lightning speed. In a short while, they met the Imperial House protectors. Hence, they decided not to rest anymore and hurried on their journey in the night. There were only 2 of them. If another 2 came, they would really die. On the evening of the second day, the exhausted group finally arrived at the fairy's capital. Outside the fairy's capital, Chu Li bade farewell to them. He did not want to return to the fairy's capital yet. He wanted to stay at the High Duke's public house for a while. Brother Chu, if there's anything you need, you can send someone to the palace, Lin Yuanshan said reluctantly. If I can help, I will. Chu Li smiled. All right, if there's anything, I'll definitely ask for your help, Brother Lin. You're not allowed to treat me like an outsider, Lin Yuanshan said. Otherwise, I'll be really unhappy. He was indebted to Chu Li for saving his life. If Chu Li had not escorted him this time, he would have lost his life. The Imperial House protectors were unreliable, and they could not even protect themselves. Moreover, Chu Li's temperament was compatible with his, and they could be said to be close friends. Chu Li said, All right then, I won't treat you like an outsider. However, Brother Lin, if you need anything, you can send me a letter, either to the Secret Guardians Hall or the Imperial residence of King An. I'll always be somewhere. I'll probably stay in the High Duke's public house for more than 10 days before returning. I will definitely trouble you with something, Brother Chu. Lin Yuanshan smiled. Chu Li asked, Can Brother Lin leave the palace normally? Lin Yuanshan shook his head. I can't leave the palace. That's a pity. The next time I leave the palace, we'll meet again. Chu Li smiled. Let's drink to our heart's content. All right. Lin Yuanshan smiled. Chu Li closed fist saluted, turned around and glided away. Lin Yuanshan sent the horse to the imperial residence of King An, and he immediately used his light body technique to return. He entered the forest, and the next moment, he appeared on the Symphony Island of the High Duke's public house. The sunset shone on the gazebo, and Xiao Shi was playing the guzheng in the gazebo. As soon as he appeared, the sound of the guzheng stopped. She was dressed in white, and her beautiful face was like white jade. Let's go to the Titanium Temple. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. You miss Suan? Yes. Xiao Shi nodded lightly. I wonder how the little guy is doing. Let's go, Chu Li said. The two of them flashed a few times, and appeared outside the Titanium Temple. The sunset dyed the dilapidated Titanium Temple golden. Under the observation of Chu Li's omniscient mirror, the golden light of the pagoda enveloped the Titanium Temple, and he could not peek inside. This golden light could not be seen by outsiders, and it looked like a dilapidated temple. He went forward and knocked on the door. After a long time, a squeak was heard, and an old monk opened the door. When he saw the two of them, he sighed. Almsgivers, you're back again? Chu Li smiled. Revered sir, we would like to meet Suan, please wait. The old monk closed the door again. It was obvious that he had no intention of letting the two of them into the temple. Xiao Shi stared at him fiercely. Turning your back on us, stupid monks are all bad people. Chu Li smiled. Buddhists pay particular attention to karma. Since the karma is over, they won't let you into the temple. They're heartless. After a while, the old monk slowly walked out. Suan is currently cultivating in isolation. He can't meet any guests. Chu Li frowned. Suan has started cultivating? Yes, he has started cultivating. The old monk slowly said. This child's affinity with Buddhism is deep, and he will become a Buddha. It's not good to disturb his mortal heart. Xiao Shi hurriedly said. Can't he just meet him? The old monk shook his head. Xiao Shi handed over the bag in her hand. Then please give this to Suan, revered sir. Chapter 479. Back at the Island of Symphony, Chu Li saw that Xiao Shi was unhappy. He smiled. Why don't we go to the 100,000 Hills? Going to the 100,000 Hills to relax was the most effective for Xiao Shi. He had used it many times. After a trip, even if he was chased and had to escape, Xiao Shi would still be in a good mood. 100,000 Hills? Xiao Shi hesitated. Aren't you afraid of being chased by the spirit cranes? Chu Li did not expose her, he smiled. The crane eggs should be hatching by now. All right, let's go take a look. Xiao Shi nodded unwillingly. Both of them flashed and appeared at the spirit crane's peak of the 100,000 Hills. Chu Li's body tensed up the moment he appeared, ready to escape. The two cranes were too powerful, they sensed him the moment he appeared and chased him like lightning. He had no power to resist, he could only escape. This time, he was ready to compete with the two spirit cranes, to see if his heavenly demonic ability could stop the spirit cranes. Chu Li's omniscient mirror shrouded his surroundings. He was shocked. The two spirit cranes should have chased him earlier. The two crane eggs had disappeared, replaced by two baby cranes, the size of a chick. One stood under the tree, high-spirited, overflowing with spiritual energy. Its aura was shocking, it pecked the ground restlessly. The other one laid on the ground, not moving at all. It was dim and without light, its vitality almost completely severed. Its aura was weak and on the verge of death. Chu Li frowned. He always thought that the spirit cranes were blessed by heaven and earth, their physique was strong, they were born to be better than humans. He did not expect this baby crane to be born with a deficiency, it was dying. Chu Li shook his head, it was a pity. The two spirit cranes stared at the dying baby crane. Chu Li could feel their pain, sorrow, despair and helplessness. The spirit cranes were smarter than humans, they could not be treated like animals. One of the spirit cranes flew into the sky, turned into a white light and disappeared into the horizon. Why is it so quiet today? Seosher lowered her voice. Chuli shook his head and sighed. One of the baby cranes is dying. Dying? Seosher frowned. Has a natural enemy? Chuli said, born with a deficiency. Seosher frowned. Spirit beasts are like humans, many die at birth. What a pity. Chuli sighed, what a pity. He could save the little crane. Even if the spirit crane tried to stop him, he could use his god's limbs to appear in front of the little crane and snatch it away. However, this would infuriate the two spirit cranes. In a fit of rage, they would come out of the 100,000 mountains to hunt him down. That would be a great sin, and he didn't know how many people would die. The remaining spirit crane used its long beak to touch the little crane gently. The little crane laid on the ground motionlessly, only its tummy rose and fell gently. It stared at the spirit crane with its eyes. Even though it had just been born, its eyes were filled with spirit energy, as though it understood life and death and was reluctant to part with the world and its parents. The other crane chirped softly at the side, trying to touch the motionless crane from time to time. Seosher asked softly, "How is it?" Chuli shook his head. "I'm afraid he can't be saved." "Can't you do anything?" "They won't let me touch it." Chuli shook his head and sighed. "Life and death are decreed by fate. It's up to its luck. Can you stand it?" Seosher rolled her eyes at him. Chuli smiled bitterly. No matter what, he had to save him, but he needed to wait for the right time. If the time was not right, it would only make things worse. An hour later, with a soft chirp, the other spirit crane fell from the sky. It staggered and almost fell. Its feathers were messy and stained with blood. Its spirit was dim, and it was obvious that it was heavily injured. Its vitality was like a candle in the wind, about to be extinguished at any time. It held a piece of black meat in its long beak. It was the size of a fist and sent it to the little crane. The little crane struggled to lift its long beak, but it did not have the strength to eat the meat. The spirit crane chirped softly as though it was urging it to eat it. The little crane tried its best to open its beak, but it really did not have the strength to eat the meat. The two spirit cranes were chirping softly, they were extremely anxious. The other little crane curiously went over and opened its beak, wanting to eat it, but it was blocked by the other spirit crane. It was so anxious that it kept chirping. The little crane that was lying on the ground tried its best to lift its beak, but in the end it fell back down. Its breath was even weaker, and it could die at any time. The injured spirit crane pecked a small piece of meat and sent it to the little crane's beak. The little crane did not have the strength to open its beak. Its bright eyes kept staring at the two spirit cranes. Its tummy rose and fell slightly, but it could not make any sound. Chuli could clearly feel the sorrow of the two spirit cranes. Suddenly, he flashed and appeared 200 meters away from the two cranes. The two spirit cranes turned to look at them, but ignored them. Their attention was completely focused on the little crane. Activating the scripture of life and death, Chuli divided the surrounding spiritual energy into two. One was sent to the severely injured spirit crane, and the other was sent to the little crane to restore its vitality. The spirit crane was energized, and it turned to look at Chuli. It was smarter than humans, it immediately knew that it was Chuli's doing. It felt that its injuries were slowly recovering. The situation suddenly turned for the better, and the shadow of death was slowly fading. The spirit in the little crane's eyes grew brighter, and it slowly recovered some of its strength. It opened its beak and swallowed the piece of meat. The other spirit crane chirped softly in dissatisfaction. The injured spirit crane chirped softly too. The other spirit crane turned to look at Chuli and Seosher. The spiritual energy from all directions was pure and abundant. It was not inferior to the aura of the Glory's Will tree. The effect was excellent. In less than 10 minutes, under the nourishment of the abundant spiritual energy, the injured spirit crane had recovered by more than half. Although the little crane was slightly weaker, it already had the strength to eat the meat. It swallowed all the meat brought by the injured spirit crane. Chuli could see that after the black meat entered its stomach, it quickly turned into a strong vitality. It was transforming the little crane's body, and it was quickly becoming stronger. This piece of meat was obviously not an ordinary item. It was unknown what it came from. Seoshur could also see that the two cranes were improving. After 2 hours, the scripture of life and death stopped circulating. The two cranes were full of energy. The little crane that had been lying on the ground suddenly stood up. It staggered forward and slowly came to Chuli. Chuli smiled and extended his hand. The little crane extended its beak and rubbed against his hand, showing its affection. It knew who saved it. It liked the aura on Chuli's body. Seoshur revealed a smile. You really saved it? Chuli said, it was saved by the old crane. The piece of meat it brought was magical. It saved the little crane. Seoshur sighed. It risked being injured to get it. Just like a human, it disregarded life and death for its child. Chuli nodded. Much stronger than a human. The other little crane wobbled over and looked at Chuli and Seoshur curiously. Chuli stared at the two spirit cranes. They were curiously looking at Chuli as if it was their first time seeing them. Chuli smiled. He did not feel any killing intent. Chuli and Seoshur suddenly flashed and disappeared. The two of them appeared on Symphony Island. Seoshur sat down. This is a good chance to get close to the spirit cranes. Are you giving it up just like that? Chuli shook his head. They are smart. It's enough. Anyway, we saved them. Seoshur said, they won't bite the hand that feeds them, right? They won't. Chuli smiled. Seoshur sat in the pagoda and said excitedly, this time they won't chase after us. We can harvest more spirit medicine. The spirit crane's peak must have a lot of treasures. Chuli sat in front of her and pondered. Seoshur could not suppress her excitement. She pushed his arm. What spirit medicine are you going to get? Chapter 480. Planting Herbs. Seoshur's eyes turned and smiled. Using the spirit crane's peak as a herb garden? Chuli said, the soil quality of the spirit crane's peak is better than the spirit soil. The spiritual energy of the spirit crane's peak was comparable to the glory's will tree. It was obvious how powerful the soil quality was. Cultivated spirit soil was far from it. The spirit soil they used now was imitated from the mountain Shiwan's soil. However, it was an imitation after all. It was far from the original soil quality of the mountain Shirwan. Moreover, the growth of the herbs was affected by the surrounding environment. Just like the ginseng in the future, no matter how good the soil quality was, without the forest environment, the ginseng would not be good enough. It was the same for the herbs. Many of the herbs could barely grow in the spirit soil. Once they grew, their medicinal effects would be much weaker. If the spirit crane's peak was used as a herb garden, the herbs that grew would be incomparable to the man-made herb garden. The herbs grown in the spirit crane's peak must have amazing effect. Seoshur understood this too. She stared at him with her chin propped up. Her deep eyes were shining. You actually came up with such an idea. You're really smart. Chuli smiled. Now I have to think about what to plant and get some seeds. Can you tame the spirit cranes and make them your mounts? With your light body technique, you won't be afraid even if you fall from the sky. Chuli shook his head. The spirit cranes are smart and proud. It's good enough that they don't treat us as mounts. In this world, humans were not the masters. The spirit beasts were the spirits of the world. They looked at humans like how humans looked at monkeys. Seoshur said, with your slyness, I believe you can do it. There's really no need. Chuli shook his head. Although they're fast, they're not as fast as me. Plus, they can't leave the mountain Shirwan. The feeling in the sky is different, Seoshur said. Chuli smiled and did not say anything. Seoshur rolled her eyes. I'll try. All right, Chuli said, but don't rush it. Take it slow, one step at a time. Feelings need to be cultivated. You don't find it troublesome. Seosher shook her head and smiled. Chuli said, You can't treat them like beasts. They're smart and sensitive. If you don't change your mind, it'll be hard to get along with them. I know. Seosher scoffed. I'll treat them like important people. Chuli smiled. When do you plan to return to the imperial residence? We'll talk about it later, Seosher frowned. I don't want to go back. Chuli said, All right, there's no rush. As the two of them were talking, Shue floated over on a small boat. Chuli could tell from her expression that it was not good news. Xueling was dressed in a snow-white gown. She curtsied and said, Master, Lady Xiao, there are 2 secret guardians from the imperial house looking for you. Chuli sighed. I really can't stay idle. Bring her to the island. Yes, Xueling replied and left. Seosher asked, What's the matter with the secret guardians' hall? They're probably urging me to look for the disciples of the Holy Church of Light. Chuli shook his head. There's nothing for me to shirk this time. I'll have to look for them properly. This is a matter of life and death. Seosher frowned and said, Can't we delay it? I've already planned to hold it after Master Xiao Taiying's wedding, Chuli said. I can't delay it any longer, or else the secret guardians' hall will be anxious. All right then, Seosher said. Just be careful. Chuli nodded. We don't have any disciples of the Holy Church of Light in our residence, but be careful of assassinations. Don't go out if you can avoid it. Okay, Seosher nodded. Chuli disappeared in a flash and appeared on his own island. A moment later, Xueling brought Dong Qifei and Yang Zhongwen to the guest hall on the island. Captain! The two of them closed-fist saluted after entering the hall. Chuli pointed at the armchair. Xueling served 3 cups of tea and left. After the two of them sat down, they took a sip of tea. Dong Qifei said impatiently, Captain, the governor of the town of Clouds has gone missing. The commander wants us to investigate the reason. The governor has gone missing? Chuli frowned. When did this happen? 3 days ago, Dong Qifei said. We rushed here on horseback without delay. The governor of the town of Clouds has gone missing for 2 days without any reason. The governor of the town of Clouds has been suppressing the news. It's the information that we, the secret guardians' hall, found out. Yang Zhongwen said, The commander wants us to see if we can find him. If we can't, we'll find out the reason. Chuli nodded slowly. The town of Clouds. I'll go and investigate. This is the secret order. Yang Zhongwen took out a small box and presented it to Chuli with both hands. Chuli took it and opened the sealed box. There was a booklet inside. Just like what the two of them said, the booklet was stamped with Fu Mengshan's seal. You want to go with me? Of course. It's useless for you to go. I'll do it myself, Chuli said. Captain. Dong Qifei widened his eyes in dissatisfaction. Yang Zhongwen also looked at him indignantly. Chuli said, It's been 4 days, right? By the time you get there, it'll be another day. It'll be too late. I'll use my light body technique. You can walk slowly behind me. Yang Zhongwen said, We can run errands or do odd jobs. Have you checked on the Imperial Inspector's background? Chuli said, What's his background like? Yang Zhongwen quickly said, The Imperial Inspector's surname is Hu Yingzhao. He comes from a prestigious family. His father is an editor in the Clear Light Pavilion. He has compiled the books in the inner treasury. He's a scholarly family. Imperial Inspector who has a good reputation as an official. He's upright and virtuous. He's offended many of his colleagues. Dong Qifei quickly said, Could it be the mayor's doing? Could it be that the mayor is corrupt and Imperial Inspector who found out about it and killed him to silence him? Wouldn't that expose himself? Yang Zhongwen shook his head. Mayor Guo wouldn't be so impulsive. That might not be the case. Dong Qifei said, He can do anything when he's angry. If he killed someone on impulse, it'd be too late for regret. He could only cover it up as a missing person. I'm guessing that it's most likely the mayor's doing. If not, why would he suppress the news? It could be someone else, Yang Zongwen said. Moreover, there's no need to use such drastic measures in an official fight. What if the mayor betrays the country? Dong Qifei said. Yang Zongwen laughed. He's already the mayor. What's there to betray? Elder Dong, you have to be more reliable. Anyway, I think there's something wrong with the mayor. Dong Qifei scoffed and turned to look at Chu Li. Captain, I've already checked on the mayor. His surname is Guo Zixing. He's under Prince Cheng. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Dong Qifei said, if he doesn't get along with the captain, it's very likely that he's deliberately causing trouble. I'm afraid that Prince Cheng doesn't even care about an imperial inspector. He's deliberately finding trouble with the captain, isn't it? Well, Yang Zongwen pondered. We can't not be too careful. With Prince Cheng's personality, he's definitely capable of doing such things. Chu Li waved his hand. I'll go take a look and we'll know. Captain, how about we go in the open and one in the dark? Yang Zongwen said, the captain is in the open. We'll go over secretly to provide support. If there's any problem, we'll have a way to defend ourselves. That's right. Dong Qifei quickly nodded. Chu Li saw that they were so eager. He understood that they wanted to gain merit. He thought for a while. That's good too. You guys go over secretly. The secret guardians' hall had eyes everywhere. It would be more convenient with them. Then let's go now, Chu Li said. Chapter 481. 100 Flower Tower in Town of Clouds. Chu Li and Han Fei sat opposite each other at a table by the window on the 3rd floor. Han Fei was still dressed in a blue shirt and looked elegant. He picked up a silver cup and took a sip. I've asked around, Imperial Inspector, who has indeed been missing for 3 days. Chu Li also picked up a cup and took a sip. What else? It seems like he suddenly disappeared from his home. No one saw clearly who took him away. They only know that the next morning, the Imperial Inspector's wife realized that there was no one beside her. She was sleeping like a log and did not hear any movement. Was it Mayor Guo who did it? I don't think so. Han Fei frowned and said, everyone in Town of Clouds knows that Mayor Guo and Imperial Inspector who are not on good terms. The two of them fight all day long. Mayor Guo advocates law above all and no one can go against it. Imperial Inspector who advocates law above all and is lenient. Lenient? Chu Li smiled. I heard that he is a righteous person. He is righteous to his colleagues, but he is lenient to the people under him. Han Fei pouted and said, I don't like this guy. Saying that he loves the people like his own children, I think he's just asking for a favor. Asking for a favor? Chu Li nodded. Han Fei said, logically speaking, no one will kill such a person. At least I know that people in the martial arts world won't touch him. As for Mayor Guo, it's unlikely. After all, the conflict between the two is public. If something happens, he will be the first suspect. What about a spur of the moment? Then it's just a fight. Han Fei shook his head and said, Mayor Guo's backing is strong. He's not afraid of Imperial Inspector who, there's no need to kill him. Chu Li said, seems like it's a mess. I invited Mayor Guo over. Han Fei smiled and said, you'll know once you ask. Seems like the Jiang-Chuan Alliance has a close relationship with Mayor Guo. Chu Li frowned. Han Fei smiled and said, Brother Chu, what are you thinking? I won't collude with the authorities. It's just a normal social interaction. Although Mayor Guo is a strict person, he follows the rules. Unlike Imperial Inspector, who seems to be lenient but doesn't follow the rules. Chu Li frowned and looked at him. Brother Luo, this can't be your doing, right? What are you talking about? Han Fei waved his hand and laughed. I understand what I can and can't do, and I won't make things difficult for you, Brother Chu. That's good. Chu Li nodded and said, the disappearance of the Imperial Inspector is not a small matter, but Mayor Guo did not report it. No matter what, it's a dereliction of duty. Mayor Guo, you must have your reasons, Han Fei said with a smile. Chu Li looked at him and shook his head helplessly. The Jiang-Chuan Alliance's influence had expanded to the White Cloud City. Han Fei wanted to carry out drastic reforms and integrate all the sects and businesses. He needed the support of the government, so it was inevitable that he had a good relationship with Mayor Guo. Han Fei was extremely intelligent and would not lose his sense of propriety. Chu Li was very relieved. The sound of footsteps could be heard as a middle-aged man in purple slowly walked up the stairs. He glanced at the third floor, his long face solemn and dignified. His figure was as straight as a spear. As he walked, every step he took seemed to be very careful, as if he was walking on thin ice. His steps were slow and calm, as if he was walking according to a certain rhythm, giving off a sense of power. Chu Li sized up the middle-aged man. Han Fei stood up, closed fist saluted and smiled. Mayor Guo, please come in. The middle-aged man in purple nodded with a solemn face and closed fist saluted. When he came closer, he looked at Chu Li. Han Fei smiled. Mayor Guo, this is Chu Li, Brother Chu. I'm sure Mayor Guo has heard of Brother Chu's name. Chu Li closed fist saluted and smiled. Greetings, Mayor Guo. Oh, Chief Chu, nice to meet you. Guo Zixing closed fist saluted. His face was still solemn. Chief Chu is a very busy man. Why do you have the time to come to the White Cloud City? Chu Li smiled. I'm sure Mayor Guo understands. Guo Zixing frowned and said, What do you mean? It's about Imperial Inspector Hu. Chu Li smiled and looked at him. Mayor Guo, are you still going to play dumb? Guo Zixing sneered. As expected of the High Duke's public house. The relationship between the High Duke's public house and the mayor was not harmonious, both of them restricted each other. Chu Li came to the White Cloud City openly and wanted to pursue the matter of Imperial Inspector Hu. How could Guo Zixing give him face? Even if Chu Li was the famous chief of the Glories Will courtyard, he was not afraid. Chu Li said, Mayor Guo, let's sit down and talk. Guo Zixing sat down, picked up the silver cup and drank it in one gulp. Chu Li said, the matter of Imperial Inspector whose disappearance can't be suppressed anymore, the fairy's capital already knows. Guo Zixing frowned and did not say a word. It seemed that nothing could be hidden in the city, his effort was wasted. Chu Li said, everyone suspects that it was done by Mayor Guo. Guo Zixing sneered. Chu Li smiled. I know that Mayor Guo suppressed the news for Imperial Inspector Hu's sake, too bad you couldn't suppress it. Someone is deliberately spreading the news. Han Fei said. Guo Zixing frowned and looked at Han Fei. This news has already spread yesterday, Han Fei said. I'm just afraid that Imperial Inspector Hu is now in danger. Guo Zixing's face was gloomy. Who did it? Han Fei shook his head. It's mysterious, there hasn't been any clues. If it's not Mayor Guo, then I'm relieved, Chu Li said, but Mayor Guo, please be careful. Come if you have the guts. Guo Zixing said coldly, what do I have to be afraid of? Chu Li said, I didn't expect Mayor Guo to be a soldier. Guo Zixing scoffed, these rascals don't dare to come openly. I guess Imperial Inspector Hu is still alive, it depends on the High Duke's public house. The most powerful force in the town of Clouds was the High Duke's public house. Even if the High Duke's public house did not have anyone in the city on the surface, they had a lot of spies in the dark. They could only rely on the High Duke's public house to save Imperial Inspector Hu, others could not be relied on. Even the newly emerged Jiang-Chuan Alliance, in terms of the depth of their spies, they were still inferior to the High Duke's public house. After all, the High Duke's public house had hundreds of years of accumulation, their roots were already deeply rooted, many spies would never think of it. Chu Li shook his head. Imperial Inspector Hu is dead. The spies of the High Duke's public house did not have any news, so he used Han Fei's Jiang Chuan alliance, plus Guizixing's. All three had no news. It was a little strange. He had already used the all-seeing heaven and earth skill. He did not sense Imperial Inspector who, he was already dead. The death of a city's Imperial Inspector, this was definitely not a small case. If he could not investigate it clearly, he would not be able to explain to the secret Guardians Hall. Moreover, this happened under the rule of the public house. If they could not solve the case and catch the murderer, the High Duke's public house's prestige would be gone, many of the mayors and imperial inspectors would be in danger, their hearts would be unsettled. Han Fei said, "Mayor Guo, did Imperial Inspector who offend anyone recently?" "Offended anyone?" Guizixing thought for a while, then shook his head. "It's been very peaceful recently, because of the eldest master's wedding, everyone is very quiet. With the three of us together, we still can't find the murderer?" Han Fei said in disbelief. "Who exactly is it to be so omnipotent?" Chu Li frowned and did not say a word. This was the troublesome part of martial arts masters. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.